Hello, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Philosapiens, where reason meets or religion meets reason. And I'm your host, Philo, and with me, Martin, as always. So, what we're gonna do is today, what we're gonna review a couple of shorts, and these shorts are by EF Dawah, Imran of EF Dawah. I was at his channel, or their channel rather, Imran and Abbas's channel, probably a couple of weeks back. But these shorts are different from different. Martin, I'm getting feedback. So these shorts are Imran talking to some other guy, basically. And what I'm gonna do is, in the meanwhile, I'm gonna make the link public. So anybody who wishes to join, as you can see, the title is "Convince Us, Save Us from Hellfire." This is episode number 5, and whatever your worldview might be, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, pantheism, or whatever it may be, you can join in and maybe have a conversation. And as anybody who watches our channel regularly knows that we have the most cordial conversations with, maybe there are very few exceptions when we have had a little bit of exchange, but otherwise our conversations are extremely cordial, and we respect everybody from for whatever their worldview might be. But yeah, we are here to get good reasons for whatever your belief system might be. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the link public and say welcome to Madan. Madan, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, just had prepared my coffee. So I don't usually drink coffee, nor do I usually stream and drink coffee. So this is like a first. I'm drinking coffee and going to stream as well. See, let's see if that makes a difference to the quality of the stream. I don't think it would. But are you a coffee drinker, Philo? Or
I used to be, then I stopped drinking coffee, and now I'm a tea only. But I like coffee. I like both, basically. I mean, I'm a
I
fan
like
of
both as
both.
well, but I for some reason I don't always remember to drink tea and coffee, which probably means I'm not a coffee or tea drinker. Tea drinkers and coffee drinkers, they need to have it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm probably am an addict, basically.
all right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
neither
mean,
then. So yeah. I don't drink therefore that many hot drinks like that. If it's sometimes if I get, I probably have coffee in the same sense I might order a burger, from a takeaway.
right,
Sometimes. So
right.
yeah.
So that's for your lunch. You said burger with coffee, basically. You're saying, right?
No, what I'm saying is, I drink coffee in the same sense that I would
Oh,
order a
Samson.
burger. Yeah,
Sorry, my bad,
yeah,
my bad. I just missed that part. All
yeah.
right.
Not like a daily habit that I need to
No,
have.
yeah. It's a once in a blue moon kind of a thing,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
exactly. And I like burgers and I like coffee as well, but I don't need it every day. Yeah.
Right. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the link public. Madan, if you have anything to say to the audience in the meanwhile, by the time I post this, I mean, I just pinned the link, basically.
hmm No, I don't really have anything specific. I mean, we only have 2 viewers right now. Hopefully that increases. So I don't know. We wish to bring good content, and now we're doing live streams in the sense that we invite our audience members to come along, and eventually, I think Philo will also invite you guys. He'll open the stream, and you guys can come along and have a discussion with us. As you know, the title of the stream is about convincing us. So if you guys have any reason to think that we're wrong about something, or you've got some strong, powerful, engaging, compelling argument that you want to hear an objection to, or you think it'll convince us, do come on. We'd like to hear it. We can have a little discussion regarding it. We do welcome friendly exchanges. I don't unwelcome hostile exchanges, but of course, this is the venue for friendly exchanges, so that comes that comes first. And hopefully, we can minimize all hostile engagements, at least on this stream, and have a good conversation. Yeah, and if not, if we don't always have to agree on everything, we can just share our views. It's entertaining, it's educational. There's also lots of people who might be watching later on who will benefit from it. So even if you don't convince us, maybe you'll convince somebody else. So that's all the more reason for you to come on. right? Because you will be defending any criticism to your religion that we deliver.
All right. Yes. What Madan said exactly echoed my thoughts. But what we're going to do is until somebody joins, and what I have done is I have posted the link to join the stream. So anybody who wishes to join, share their experiences, talking to even theists or atheists, and what they found was wrong with their arguments, or if they have a question regarding any argument that they want to see how it works, or whether it fails or it succeeds or whatever. If you have any questions, do jump in and talk to us. And if you think you have a very compelling argument, I'm repeating what Mahaden already said. Basically, do jump in and ask us, or at least share with us. Maybe it'll convince us, or maybe it'll convince somebody who watches our streams. Basically, so the link is pinned, and what we're gonna do in the meanwhile, when somebody until somebody joins, is we're gonna review a short by EF Dawah, and this the person is Imran, and let's listen to this conversation and see what he has to say and whether his argument has any weight in it. Basically, all right, Madan, let me know if you can hear the video.
You say you come across Muslims who are not willing to hold science above the
Yes, I
Quran.
can.
The reasons is
Yes.
that we do believe it to be a revelation and not the words of Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the other thing is we recognize the limitations of science. So science is an ever-changing measure of models of the universe around us. So if you have a ruler, which is an ever-changing model, the scale is always adjusting, then that can't be used as an objective measure to measure something else against. You say you come across Muslims who are not willing to hold science above.
All right, so Martin, you heard this is the first of the shorts basically, and what he's saying, what Imran is saying, that he holds revelation above the science basically, and science is ever changing, and that's true. Science is ever changing because you didn't have any theory about the laws of motion basically. Nobody stumbled upon those laws basically. Then Newton came along, and Newton said, "Oh, yeah, I see an order in the motion, basically, and that these solid objects, bodies, they follow a motion, or they have an order of the motion." And he came up with the laws of motion, basically. And then in 20th century, a person called Einstein came along, and I said, no, the Newtonian mechanics doesn't work really well, because it only works for larger it only works for bodies that we see close by, but at a gargantuan scale, the scale of the galaxies, it doesn't seem to work basically. So what does work? And he said, no, my theory, general relativity, should work basically, and that's a better representation of the model of the universe, pretty much. So yes, I mean, science is something that keeps changing and keeps improving itself, basically, and the models are not a perfect objective representation of the reality of the universe, but models are a representation of as much of the universe that you can see. Now, the problem that Imran's objection to this is that he thinks that the revelation that he has got is objectively true. But how has he arrived to that conclusion? He has used certain precepts that the science uses. I mean, he would say, we have got it through testimony. But think about testimony. Testimony is kind of goes through the similar process. You can call it inductive process, basically. And then you arrive through in epistemology, probably testimony has a different status than science, but still it has to go through so many different you know mouths or people that you can claim that how did you arrive that as an objective truth, wherein science has at least somewhat certainty about it. So that's one of the objections that I have about it. Madan, you want to chime in? And then we have Otangelo who joined. Otangelo, if you give us a few minutes, we'll review this, and then we'll take you in. How about that? Are you okay with it? Give me a...
Up to you.
Madan, you there? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the idea that science is ever changing, in theory, that sounds great, but in reality, not every single science is obviously ever changing, right? When I say science, obviously the scientific method, I don't mean the scientific method doesn't change. Scientific method has been refined. I mean, the discoveries of applying science to the world, etc. Not all of those obviously are ever changing in this way he kind of makes it out to be. I mean, the fact that we have DNA, let's say, is that going to be necessarily changing in the next couple of years, or in the next 10 years, or next 100 years? We may learn more about DNA, of how it works. Maybe some adjustments will be made, but the exact fact of DNA is not going to necessarily get reversed. Or the fact that the apple falls, you can say that's gravity.
Or that the earth revolves around the sun, or
Yeah,
something like that,
right. Right. So he's picking and choosing particular areas of science that are still unsettled and uncertain given the nature of it. For example, the cosmological sciences, which are, yes, they are comparatively, compared to other forms of science, weaker in its certainty, simply because of its technological limits and the limits that we have about the origins of the universe and how we go about testing it, and how cosmology kind of collapses into sometimes philosophy, right? And that makes it very difficult. However, what he's doing is, if he's comparing that cosmology to all the other sciences, that'll be wrong-headed and a bit of a equivocation fallacy, right? Depending on the science, depending on the knowledge that we've garnered, there's lots of undisputed facts that are highly unlikely to be overturned tomorrow, right? The existence of the sun, for example, is highly unlikely to be overturned tomorrow. The existence of us, the fact that humans exist, or that humans have two eyeballs, right?
Right,
They have
exactly,
nose.
yeah.
These are also scientific facts, or etc. So it
Or
depends.
that the sun rises from the east, or kind of those kind of things,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
These are
Some of the really basic facts, pretty
yeah.
much. Yeah.
These are highly probabilistically unlikely to be overturned tomorrow. So that's a bit. So it's a bit of a false characterization of science. And like you said, my second point will be your reaffirming and reiterating your point, which is the Quran rests upon many of the same epistemological principles that we use to think about the world. For example, science uses abductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, primarily, a bit of deductive reasoning. These are all used in the sphere of getting to the truth of the Quran as well. As you said, testimony. And the fact that there is a Quran in front of you and you're reading it is part of the is through what? Through experience and observations. And what we know through observations and experience is subject to inductive reasoning, right? So to think that the Quran is on this kind of different epistemological level, when we use the same tools to arrive at the conclusions of the Quran, means that any criticism that you make against the scientific discoveries, which for reasons of induction, the limits of induction. Just to clarify what induction is that if you've seen a finite set of observations, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's deductively certain that it guarantees the future. The future may not resemble the past. That's the principle of induction. The principle of induction that we judge the future by resemblance to the past. But the criticism against induction is that, how do we know that? How can we prove that the future must resemble the past? Well, that principle of induction, whether the future resembles the past, applies to almost every form of thinking, right? Including revelation. Because if it's the case that the future may not resemble the past, because we may acquire new knowledge about the future that will revoke the past, contradict the past, overturn past facts, then that applies to...
Madan, can I just jump in and give our listeners an example for this, basically,
Yes.
right? Sorry to cut you short on this, but one of the reasons why they say, the Quran is true and it's it's a word of Allah and all those things, is one of the reasons these guys give is that Prophet never lied, basically. And this is the same exact inductive principle, basically. If somebody never lied, does not mean he will never lie, or he won't ever lie. Basically, this is the same inductive principle. They rest there. I mean, if for the sake of argument, it is assumed that the Prophet never lied before, his 40th birthday, basically, right? And this is this year 610, basically, AD. He could have lied about this. I mean, that doesn't really, it's you can't say that he never lied. That's why he won't ever lie, basically, about anything else. This is the same inductive principle that they, blame, basically, which the science rests upon, pretty much.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
the same time, they don't realize, because their epistemology is the foundation of their epistemology is exactly the same.
Yes, exactly. So induction, as you said, is so we see this many white sheep, and therefore we conclude all sheep, or the next sheep that I'm gonna see, individual sheep that I'm gonna see is going to be white. But then we encountered black sheep, and therefore it kind of contradicted what we thought was true, and that's the limit of induction. Or I won't call it the problem of induction. Problems of induction is slightly different, but but it's very similar, very similar. I like to call it the limit of induction. I won't go into details why right now, but yeah. So if it is the case that we've seen a finite set of observations of sheep, we can't conclude every single sheep is going to be white, simply because there could be a new experience that we have, which will show and overturn the past knowledge, which is that there is black sheep. And the fact that we've discovered that shows that there's always this uncertainty with induction, right? But if you notice, that same way of thinking applies to not just science, but everything. Who my parents are, right? Which country I was born in, right? Where Australia is, right? Whether my car parked outside of my house, these are all formed through observations and through induction, right? The reason I judge that my car is parked outside of my house is because of the past. The past experience shows me that usually when I park my car outside the house, it stays there 99.9% of the time, right? In fact, I've never had my car stolen, right? So it's probably there. I'm not looking at my car right now, so I'm going to make a conclusion using induction that my car is highly likely to be there. But wait a minute, I used induction. Was that a scientific conclusion? Somebody may say that's not science. So it applies to simple reasoning like that, right? And if it applies to simple reasoning like that, are we using that sort of simple reasoning when it comes to scripture, when it comes to religion? Of course we are, right? All of the evidence suggested that I had this sort of experience, or that sort of, the Prophet Muhammad did this, etc. All of that is based on very, very strong inductive past information about of the world, right? Right now, for example, the Quran says this or that, but the future may not resemble the past. We may uncover new information because of the limits of induction. Just like I might uncover new information about my car or my parents or Australia. Tomorrow, today, we know that Australia is around this area of the earth, etc. And new knowledge may, for example, show that actually Australia isn't there, because that's the limits of induction, right? The same sort of thinking applies to almost everything. And therefore, if you attack if science is a problem because of induction, then everything almost goes, including religious knowledge. Right. Yeah, you can't trust that.
Yeah. Okay, Madan, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold off on running the short number 2 for this, which connects to our audience who's listening. There's another short by Imran which kind of connects to, probably it's a clip from the same conversation, and it shows the absurdity of the conversation and the arguments that were presented by Imran. But since we have quite a few guests, we have Otangelo, we have C-Time and Alicia. So what we are going to do is we're going to hold off running that and, have a conversation with each one of these guys, basically. Hello to everyone, first of all, and hello, Otangelo. What do you have for us?
First of all, I saw the title of your stream, Try to Convince Us About God's Existence, right? So the criticism that I have on this is that, at least for me as a Christian, Christ didn't give us the task to try to convert unbelievers. He gave us the task to go and preach the gospel And who would believe to make them disciples, or to introduce them into faith? But the act of conversion, this is something which the Bible says depends on the action of the Holy Spirit. So it's God Himself who draws believers to Him, and when they convert, then the church is ordained to introduce the teachings and so forth. So when I talk to unbelievers, it's never my aim to try to convert them.
Okay, so can I ask you a few questions to understand your theology better? So, are you an annihilist, or do you think that?
Oh, I'm a Christian. I've been already here on your channel. I thought you
No, no,
remember.
no. I mean, you are a Christian, but within Christianity, there are two groups. One thinks that uh, the unbelievers will cease to exist, won't go to hell,
Oh,
basically, right?
yes, yes, yes.
And there is
Well,
another
the
group that
term that
thinks
is,
that the
yeah,
unbelievers will
yeah,
go
yeah.
to hell and suffer for eternity, right?
Well,
So,
the
which one
thing
of
is
those
that,
two groups are you?
yeah, I know what you're asking now. Well, the thing is that the term ion to ion, or from eternity to eternity, is both used in regards of those which are saved, and the exact same term is used in regards of those which are lost. Okay, so it doesn't make a distinction. So the interpretation that hell itself exists forever, but those which are thrown into hell, they will be annihilated. They will cease to exist as soon as they enter in hell. Um, I don't see that interpretation substantiated precisely because the same term is used in both cases.
Okay, okay. Um, so yeah, I mean, then you're saying in your theology, at least uh, you're not too worried about others, basically unbelievers, right? You want to convince them, but it's okay not to, convince them. You just want to share with them the good news, basically. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, what I am saying is that my aim is not um, to remove your free will. You can have personal reasons why you want to live autonomously to God, and God has given us free will precisely in order to exercise our free will. So, of course, I wish that people are saved, that they become believers, but it is not my job to try to convince others. What I am doing is simply I am exposing the reasons why I believe, and then those which are interacting with me, they can make their decision on their own. And if they don't, that's up to them.
So I think maybe we are on the same page in that case. Basically, you saying maybe your problem is just us using the word convince us. Basically, if you present stronger argument, that is in a way convincing somebody, right? Maybe I'm wrong in my assessment of that uh, word or meaning of that word, pretty much, right? I mean, if you have really strong arguments, probably you are trying to convince us, but it is it is quite possible that somebody might not get convinced by those arguments that you think are pretty convincing from your side, or
Well,
pretty
first
strong
of all,
arguments,
I
right?
think that my position is extremely strongly supported by scientific, philosophical, and theological reasoning. But that's just my perception. Now, I don't think that people
So
just come. Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. My bad.
I
Sorry.
don't think that actually people just come to believe in God's existence based on reason alone. It is also essentially a decision which is based on will. So people, they have, each one of us, we have our personal preferences for whatever reason that is, and some they just prefer to believe to live autonomously to God and live as if God doesn't exist.
Correct me if I understood you wrong. You're saying because free will is such a big thing, I might be convinced by your arguments or your presentation of your worldview, and despite that, I might deny that I don't believe in it because I have free will, right?
I'd say this: there are people which do not hold or have good reasons to reject the God of the Bible, but they are anti-theists or mesotheists because they do not like the person of the Bible, in special not the God of the Old Testament, with all the repetitive reasons of genocide and God drowns babies and slavery, all these kind of things. So I've seen many times on those atheist shows like Atheist Experience and so forth, Matt Dillahunty and others, they've said, I am not convinced that God exists. But if someone would convince me that he actually does exist, and I actually come to believe that he exists, one thing is to believe that he exists, another is to become a follower of Christ. And I wouldn't become one because I think the God of the Bible is a bad character.
Yeah. So now we have progressed a little bit. Now we have two things, right? Somebody could be convinced, right, but he might not follow. But that's a different thing than somebody getting convinced and not believe in it, right? Basically, in the sense that he would reject it altogether. Somebody might say that, okay, I have some of these problems within the theology, basically the concept of God, or at least what God has done in Old Testament, basically. And so I reject that kind of a God. I would believe in that God, but I won't follow, right? So my question was the other one, that somebody does not even believe, that he finds that those arguments presented to him are not convincing enough, right? You see the point, the
Yeah,
difference
I mean
between
the
those two
Apostle
I'm
Paul,
talking about.
he said in Romans 1:19 that unbelievers they suppress the truth. I mean, this is obviously debatable if that is true. But what he basically is saying that even those which say that they have good reasons not to believe, that they are actually not having good reasons, but they suppress the truth consciously and willingly because the natural world points to God in an obvious way. Again, I mean, this is a debatable view of the apostle, right? But that's a possibility.
Mm. Let me
Right.
say something. Yeah.
Yeah, Martin, go.
Yeah, no, I don't think what he's saying is necessarily wrong in terms of cognitive psychology, etc. I mean, we do have a lot of information suggesting that we're not completely rational beings, right? Of course, yeah. I don't think that's like a truism now that we know. We don't always obviously arrive at conclusions mainly based on strict logical and rational evidential
Right.
thinking. Is a
Yes.
combination of factors. And if you look at like anything within psychology or cognitive psychology, etc., there's a lot of evidence suggesting we have so many biases, right? Confirmation bias and subject to many optical illusions and group alliance biases. And in the modern day climate, we have stuff like virtue signaling, etc. So many dynamics affect our thinking and our beliefs and our behaviors as well. So it's absolutely correct. But I don't think it's just applicable. I know that's your theological view that which is what you said, it has to be tested if it's true or not, right? That unbelievers particularly hide and suppress the truth. But I would go broader than that, and I'll say humans hide and suppress the truth, right? That you're going to find atheists who are emotional thinkers, who don't arrive at conclusions through evidence, who ignore stuff, who won't want to have a charitable debate. They don't go into deep into the self-criticism as you would think, to critique their own
Yes.
beliefs. The best sort of philosopher is a skeptical one, right? He comes up with arguments and then he tries to defeat his own arguments, right? And many atheists won't do that, but also many theists don't do that as well. There's confirmation bias across.
Absolutely. I would myself include into this category. And I think that the falsification principle used in science is rarely used by ourselves because what we decide that we want to be true, we will do everything in order to confirm that what we already believe is true. And I've done this all along, and I am not ashamed to confess it. So, yes, I am biased. But the thing is that I don't think that I hold my view just because I want it to be true, but because, especially after 40 years that I'm a Christian now, in my constant interaction with atheists, I have been constantly challenged to scrutinize my beliefs if they really withstand scrutiny. And especially in the last 10 years or so, I think that my view has been confirmed enormously, in special by looking into different disciplines of science like physics and chemistry, biochemistry, and biology.
Can I just say one thing about the last point, Mahadan, you raised and Otangelo raised as well earlier? And the point I'm saying is, I mean, whatever way you see that problem, that we are, and I agree with both of you that we are not always rational, pretty much, in our decisions. We take decisions which are sometimes bad, basically, right? We should have taken some other decision instead of this one, or whatever the case may be. But that's when talking about this, coming to a conclusion about God or a religion, this bodes really bad for the God, pretty much, whoever has created. Because, I mean, if you are really saying that these faculties are given by that God, then he has deliberately given these, faulty faculties to us to come to an incorrect conclusion, right? I mean,
Yeah, this is
and that's a
you
problem,
raise a,
basically. That's a
yeah.
problem for the God. Basically, it seems like that whoever that God is a malevolent being instead of a benevolent being. Basically, he's playing a game with you, basically, right? And whosoever is like, does is gullible enough, pretty much, gets to pass the test. But whosoever is not, uh, is just going to hell, pretty much, straight away. So that's what I'm saying. And whichever way you look at that problem of us not having, properly rational faculties to and take the right decision every time that comports to reality, we are not at fault, because it's not our fault. From an evolutionary perspective, you can see that why it would happen, basically, right?
Well, I'd say that the your emotional inclinations, they are yours, and you cannot simply attribute your choices, also based on emotion and not only on reason, simply to God and say, well, it's you that have given me this emotional inclination to reject you. I think this would be a problematic stance to take. I think we are responsible for what we choose. Basically, is it being it based on emotion or reason or whatever? But in the end, there is nothing, not or nobody behind us that we can blame for our choices. They are yours. They are mine, and um, you cannot simply blame shift and say, well, God made me the way I am. So what to say then in regards of those which actually positively choose God and had the opportunity and are saved? So I'd say that this is not a good assessment to try to blame shift.
All right. Okay. So what I'll say is, uh, I would like to come on this, but let me see, Mahadan, do you have anything to add to it, or let's hear from others as well a little bit, and then Otangelo, I'll come back to you. Is that okay?
Do you want me to respond to that, or what is it you want to talk about?
Would you like to respond to it?
I mean, so the idea that it's due to free will. I mean, free will, etc. The thing about cognitive psychology is that it kind of identifies patterns in our generalized thinking abilities that can be attributed to our imperfect brains, right? So that might add, add more to Philo's point that it's more to do with the way we were made, in the sense that it's actually difficult to combat these cognitive deficiencies or imperfections in our thinking without real sophistication. right? Like somebody in a let me give you an example. Suppose you try to show Christianity is true to somebody in the Amazon, right, or in a tribe. They have a lifelong set of biases and that they identify with tribal identity, cultural identity. That is going to take them a long journey to even come to opening their minds to realize that they're being biased. They don't even know what a bias is, probably in the right sense, right? And there's plenty of kind of information showing, for example, in order to get over certain cognitive biases, you need training, like explicit training, like certain industries, for example, do debiasing techniques in order to get you out of that sort of habit of thinking. So, whilst we can go into a debate regarding free will itself, as you know, lots of naturalists don't think free will exists, which is another issue. But I don't want to open up that kind of conversation right now and talk about free will, whether we have free will. Just for the minute, let's assume that we do have a form of free will, right? It's affected by this kind of heavy set of brain imperfections that require a lot of work to get around, and therefore it still increases kind of more increases the case what Philo was talking about, that God has, under your view, right? The logical implications of your view, that is, when you take into account these cognitive biases and that God exists, that it may not be the type of God that we're thinking about, because why would we have all these difficulties that require years of training or scientific intervention or significant education, right? In all likelihood, many people are going to fail to come to the truth without significant set of tools, significant set of rewriting of the brain. You're not going to be able to convince somebody from the other side of the world very easily. And if you do, it's going to be a small percentage of that population. Vast majority of people are going to just walk away. You will have to put them in like a cage, institutionalize them and kind of re-indoctrinate them. That's almost what you have to do in order to get some people to believe in the things that you do, and that is an issue, I think, for theism, if they want to demonstrate a case for genuine free will and a genuine responsibility on humans to arrive at the truth, etc.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, what I'm going to do is, Otangelo, sorry, I'm sure you want to say a lot of things about that, but with your permission, shall we take in Alicia and C time as well?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Otangelo. Ali bhai, how are you? And C time, how are you? Let's talk to each one, one after the other. I don't remember who was first in. I think Ali was first in, and then C time. So
Alrighty. Thank you once again, everyone, for letting me in and putting my point forward. I have a question for Otangelo. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Um, so you said you were in this faith for past 40 years, and do you think that your emotions played any role that lead up to this conclusion that what you believe in is the truth, or was it totally based on rationale and your emotions did not have any role to play that helped you reach this truth?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, I was a teenager. I was 15 or something like that when I entered into a state of depression, and I had no clue that there was a clinical situation, and I didn't seek help. And for 6 months, I went through um, uh, deep trouble. I cannot describe it, but I seek the way out. And I said, well, when I was a younger boy, I was praying to God, and He helped me. I'll try, and maybe it helps. And it helped. That was basically my starting point. And then I started to read the Bible, and I was thirsty to know more about this God. And then one day, someone invited me to go to an evangelical church. There, they explained me the concept of free grace, which is not based on working, being saved by works, as the Catholic Church usually preaches. So that was my starting point. And um, yeah, this is it makes 40 years in about 2 months or so that I'm took that decision. So of course, I think that emotions play an important role. Either you want to seek God and know Him, or you don't, or you think that, well, maybe it's better to live life as if there isn't a God. And I think this is all what free will is about. But yes, of course, I think that emotions have played and continue to play an important role in
Right.
my faith.
Right. So I know a guy, and he tells me exactly the same story. Other than the God part, he was like, I was really into a bad situation when I was young, and I really didn't know what to do. So I finally found a method of calming myself down, and which was meditation. And his meditation did exactly the same job that your church did for you. So, should I give any weightage to the meditation just because it helps someone come out of the depression and it helps someone finding the truth? Because people tell me the same thing about meditation too.
Well, first of all, um, it wasn't the church that helped me out of depression. It was a process which was based on me praying, and then after a period of time, these depressions went away. Now, if it is warranted to attribute them 100% to my prayers and to answered prayers, I cannot guarantee that. I am just telling you what happened in my trajectory. Okay, so I don't want to use this as an argument for God's existence.
I got it. And one more thing. You said you were born in a Christian family and you were not, but then you started practicing and all that. But do you think you would have reached to the same truth, the Jesus Christ? You think you would have reached the same truth if you were born in Amazons?
Well, I know that the Christian faith
He's
has.
a sorry, Ali bhai.
Yeah.
Otangelo is a Brazilian, so
Oh,
I'm
he's
pretty sure
Brazilian. Well,
he was born somewhere close to
yeah, almost Amazonian. I'm
to
sorry. I'm sorry. Almost Amazon.
that.
But you got
Right,
what I'm
right,
saying.
right.
But you got my
Yeah,
point. What I'm trying to say, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but maybe
Okay.
correcting you. I live in Brazil, that's correct, but I am actually Swiss Italian. So
Okay.
I grew up in Zurich in Switzerland, and
But my
Okay,
question is
okay, okay.
like
Sorry,
most of the
I
people
thought
like
you were born in the Amazons, pretty much
yeah,
close to
but
the
my
Amazon.
question was like most of the people stay in a religion that they're born in. We see rarely somebody leaving a religion. Like maybe 4, 5, 6% of the people leave their religion and go somewhere else, convert or become an atheist.
I
But
would put it this way, Ali
yeah,
bhai. I would put
yeah.
it this way. What if you were born in Saudi Arabia to a Muslim family,
Would you
pretty much?
have
Would you
reached the
come to
same
the,
truth?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, would you have reached to the
well,
same truth? Or,
I would say that this argument is called the genetic fallacy, that we are just believing in a local deity because we were born in that region, and the majority of people they believe in that religion, and therefore they become Hindu or Christian or Muslim or whatever it is. But in regards of the Christian faith, it has actually spread all around the world and into all kind of places where other religions were eventually dominant, and then nonetheless many converted to Christianity. And you see that in China, in India, in the South Pacific, wherever you go, there you find people that were born in a kind of religion, and then they converted to Christianity because they understood that Christ is the answer to what we are seeking, and the answer to our deepest questions in our existence.
yeah, the problem here, Tangelo, is that that's an ultra slow process. Out of 1,000 people whom the message is delivered, probably only 5 or 10 convert to the other religion, other than whichever religion they are born into. So even if you look at Christianity, a large part of Christianity, I'm not quite sure if it was spread by a sword or not. Just like, I mean, a large part of Islam, it is said at least, was through conquests, pretty much, right? And through some of the policies that Islam spread, pretty much, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it, basically, because there are records of the conquest, and some part of it is true for Christianity as well, pretty much, that it was spread through the policies, the stringent policies against those who were not part of the covenant, in a sense, right? And now, since you see that the world has become much more open, then you can't put all these strict, policies against those who don't believe. You see that that huge decline in people converting to Christianity. It's not as if it was in third century or fourth century, after Christ, or AD, basically, right? Or C, rather, I should use, right? Common
Well,
era.
yeah. Well,
So
while I
the question I'm
agree with
saying, it's my problem here is again the same problem, that whatever deity is behind this kind of a plan, I'm sure you believe that this thing is running through a plan. I don't know. I mean, from an Islamic perspective, it is running.
let me
Madhan, you
also
want to jump in? Let me just finish this. Let me
All
just
right.
finish this point, and then you can jump in. And that's what I'm saying, that if this process is that everybody is eventually going to come to Christ, or as you think, or as if a Muslim believes that everybody is eventually going to come to Islam, I think this is going to be a really slow and tedious process in which uh, many orders of magnitudes of people are going to go to eventually hell. Pretty much, that seems like a wasted kind of a plan to me, at least.
Yeah, let me
Madam, you
please
wanted to
answer to
jump in?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me, then you can answer. Well, first of all, I agree with you that some churches, like the Catholic Church, they have indeed tried to convert tribes by the sword, but you cannot generalize that. And if you look especially into the first 300 years of Christianity, Christians, they were persecuted in many different situations and during different governments of the Roman Empire. So Christianity didn't spread because of the sword, but under persecution until it became a state religion in the fourth century. So there is a significant difference and contrast to how Islam spread. And the main teaching of Christ is to love our next and not to conquer our next with the sword. So, who really follows Christ tries to convey the message of the gospel, not with imposition.
Madhan, you wanted to jump in, right?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say something on I think, yeah. So I think that what Otangelo said about the genetic fallacy is roughly correct, in the sense that first of all, when people say, if you were born in this country, you'd believe that, we do it sometimes. You have to do it for a different purpose. Like, I say, for example, to theists who don't question their beliefs, for example, let's say I just meet a theist from India or something, and I say, so why do you believe in this? And then they start talking, and they just tell you, because my parents taught me this, and I just do it because I follow the customs, etc. In that situation, I think it's fine to point out their background, because the only reason they're believing in it is simply because they were conditioned, right? And that's when you can say, well, if you were born in Western Soviet Union times or something, you'd be believing something different. If you were born in the ancient Greek times, you'll be believing something different. Born in America, you'll be born, etc. So your beliefs are the truth about your beliefs is just a coincidence, just a matter of accident, right? But is there a connection between accidental conditioning and the truth, right? And that's obvious. There's a link between those, and I think that's not a genetic fallacy. That's a correct way of debunking an argument. If somebody's trying to say that my beliefs are true because just is because I was born with it and I believe it, well, that's not. Then you can point out the chance nature of their beliefs, that they were just born there, right? At the same time, Ontagelo is correct that genetic fallacy, that would be a genetic fallacy, just to simply say that just because you were born in an area where Christianity, etc., was spreading, and therefore you believe it, therefore it's false, right? That would be a genetic. If you frame it that way, that the atheist would be wrong. because Otangelo may have arguments for why Christianity is right that's not independent to his geographical origins, right? And the reason I say this especially is because the same argument that an atheist can make about Otangelo can make about the atheist, right? The atheist is born in London, England, right? in maybe went to the University of Oxford or something in a highly atheistic society. Isn't he? Is he going to get proper exposure to theological arguments from the other side? Is he not going to be biased to his culture? So these sort of arguments, I think that's why Otangelo is correct, would be correct to raise a kind of genetic fallacy. But if done in the way I did formally, which is to pinpoint to people who don't question their beliefs and who just kind of tell each other that the reason I believe in it is because my parents told me and my parents told them and etc. And then you can point out, look, you're not arriving at the truth. It's just a birth, a matter of artifact of your birth, wherever you're born. Is the truth? Is there a connection between rationality and truth and where you're born? Not necessarily. So that's not. I won't say that's a genetic fallacy.
Yeah, but most of the times what happens is that's the major percentage of people who go through that kind of I mean, Otangelo might be an exception, and you can quote a few atheists as well. But then from the atheist milieu that has formed lately and has increased in number has come from one religion or the other, but the other way has not. The other way around has not been true. It hasn't happened that there were atheists and they read Bible or read Quran and then converted to it, basically, right? And so my point is, at least the point I was trying to make, is that that's still the case, that even if those people are there, they haven't even read those things, and they are they're gonna latch on to whatever belief system they have, even if you have given them arguments, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
Because
but my point is that I actually don't think most agnostics and atheists necessarily arrive at these kind of conclusions through rational thinking, especially in countries where religion isn't vogue anymore. Right, the atheist in Scandinavia is probably not like a philosopher or a scientist.
No, you're putting your bar way too high for these kind of arguments, right? I mean, their arguments are pretty simple because they think there is there is violence in Old Testament. That's why I don't believe in Christianity or something like that. Or the morality. Most of the times, their case may be moral.
Sometimes it's just because mom and dad is an atheist, right? So I'm saying that Otangelo does have a point, and I do in the sense that if your mom and dad are non-believers, you're more likely to be a non-believer. It applies similarly to atheists as much as it does to Christians, and it really depends on the kind of education that you have. If your mom and dad are such that, or your society is such that it encourages open critical thinking and they do a fair exposure of all views.
I think I mean I'll agree to your point. The problem is that we need to take a real good survey and see which ones of these group of people have been given a good education onto other religions or comparative religions, at least on surface level, to see why that might be wrong. And you might be right. I'm not saying that you're not right. Probably you're right. I mean, atheist kids born to atheist parents are more likely than not following whatever their parents have been following, and maybe haven't even thought about why a certain argument doesn't work against existence of a
And I
God
think
or
to the
something
point
like
where
that.
I think to the point where Madan said that, exactly the same argument can be made against an atheist too. That you're an atheist because you've never been introduced with the theistic philosophy. That's why you're an atheist. Very true, Madan, and that's exactly my point. Was that I started off my question with the emotion part. Like, do you think that your emotions played any part in it? When he agreed on that part, that yes, my emotions did play part in getting to the truth, Jesus Christ, or whoever God. And that's when I came up with this question. Like, do you think that you would have reached the same truth if you were born in a different part? I never wanted to imply that he's only a Christian because he was born in a Christian family. I affirmed it from him first, that is it the case? And when he affirmed that yes, this is the case, only then I put my second question for the geographical region and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree to that point basically, and that's the thing basically. Would he have come to the same conclusion? And yeah, I mean,
Like it's just like saying, like, if I have a child who's been always exposed to militants, there are high percentage that one day he will be a militant himself. It's just that.
right, right. Okay, Otangelo, you wanted to, you do you want to retort to the points that were made by Madan, in fact, was or Ali rather.
Yeah, it is a complex issue how we come to believe what we believe, and what we believe if we have done our homework to come to a true belief. It's a complex topic. I just don't believe that it is the right direction to say, for example, well, um, Christianity isn't true because you've been born in a place where it was the dominant religion and you've been just used to it, and that's how you were raised, and that's why you believe it. I mean, it can be indeed the case if you are a superficial believer and you say, well, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Protestant, and if you ask why, well, because I've been raised in a Catholic family or a Protestant or whatever, and that's why I am a Christian. But I mean, it wasn't in my case. I mean, I dedicate a very large part of my time in scrutinizing reasons to be not only a Christian but also a theist and a believer in creation and intelligent design. And whenever I find reasons in the natural world, then this strengthens my belief, and it makes my what I believe more warranted. Or if I scrutinize the historicity of Jesus or the Shroud of Turin or other topics related to the Bible and then find evidence which corroborate what I already believe, then this strengthens my faith, and I can say I am not only a believer because I've been raised somewhere where my religion was the predominant religion, or because I'm emotionally attached to it, but I can say I'm a believer strongly also because of what I have investigated.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, which arguments do I think maybe we have already spoken about this? Madan, shall we go over there? Shall we ask Otangelo what his? I think I'm assuming Otangelo, your case is a cumulative case and not just that one, two, or three arguments that you think are work for you, basically, right?
Absolutely, yes. And as an apologist, I actually adopt the cumulative case approach. I'm not a pre-supper, but I say, well, it is a reasonable approach to look into the natural world and check if we see and find a signature of design. And if eventually an unbeliever comes to the conclusion, yes, it's true. It seems that these are good reasons to believe that the creator was actually involved in creating life and the universe or biodiversity or whatever we're talking about. And once someone has come to that conclusion, then of course the question is, well, what is the identity of the designer or the designers in plural? Because it can't be eventually only one, it can be multitude. And then you come into philosophical and theological questions. And that's, of course, also a very interesting field, which I have also dedicated time to investigate the truthfulness of the Bible, truthfulness of the Quran. I've had several interactions already with uh, uh, Muslims, and I had actually very recently won a debate, not debate, what but I joined the stream, and The person said, well, Christ isn't warranted to be a historical figure because we do not have proof that he actually existed. And then I was wondering myself, well, do you have proof that the Quran is true or that what the Quran claims is true? And of course, they don't have proof. Actually, I see largely that.
All right. Otangelo, I think we're diverting onto a different thing. So you gave a few things over there why you think you know what your belief rests on. Let me do one thing. Let me have C time say a few things. I think C time you have joined quite a few times, so let's see what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you, Philosophian, for adding me here.
Hmm.
See, Philosophian, what my thoughts over here is, we are first thing is that the what we call our thoughts or the process how we think about the things now. It's actually it's actually develop in a period of time. It's not a product of a particular period of time or particular moment. So it's not like that somebody will change its mind in a moment, or we are going to change somebody's mind in a moment. It's take a law. It's take to strike on different thoughts, different logics and reasoning, different facts, and everything which has made which has just made a thought process in a person. So
Right, right.
it's
I
not
see your
like
point. I mean, you're trying to
yeah,
say that everything takes time to build up. Every belief takes time to
yeah,
build up, pretty
like
much, right?
you are not going to change. You are not going to change your mind in a moment that now
Yeah,
you are
but at
going
least
to be a
you can
theist.
ignite
And
you can ignite somebody's curiosity or give a flashpoint in a sense, right? For
yeah,
somebody's
we can give
journey.
it,
Basically, is that a
but
possibility,
the
or you
way,
don't think even that's a possibility, right? So
no, no, that's a possibility.
most of the
That
conversations are done this way, that you're not. I mean, when you say that convince me, at least maybe I'm assuming that your point is about our title, right? Maybe that's the thing that
yeah,
you just can't come and convince us. But our point is that at least you can kickstart that process of a self doubt, maybe, right, or critical
yeah,
analysis within
philosophically,
ourselves, or in somebody else as
uh,
well. I mean, it could be generalized to
yeah,
somebody else as well, right? So
yeah,
that's, I
yeah,
mean, your
yeah,
point is well
philosophical.
taken. I mean, nobody's gonna
No,
go
no,
and then maybe I remember Madin told me that for him, leaving Islam was like just you know he just it didn't take him too long to leave Islam pretty much, and he'll tell his own story pretty much. But for
yeah,
others, it just takes a lot of time. Maybe it's it's not as simple as that pretty much, right? So
yeah,
maybe there are different
yeah,
degrees of this thing. For someone you might be able to
yeah.
convince just within like half an hour period. Maybe that's also a
No, no,
possibility. I
but
don't think.
what I got from here, na, from the talk is like that everything you people are trying to is trying to put is in context of God, no, but it's not about God only. Like for me, when I was an atheist, and still God is not very much important for me, that is there any God or not. The thing is, how I started to go into the philosophy which I am right now, Advaita. The first thing which ignites me was whether there is something higher which is going to be achieved for me. other than this only materialistic, or you can say the what we call the success and failures, and in other than the prospect of this worldly things, like that. Like if you don't have something to achieve which is higher than this, then everything then the reason which is very much clear is that you are going to be very self-centric. The reasons come to like this, that if there is nothing going to be happen, or is not going to be achieved afterwards, other than these things, then the person must the the highest chance is that a person will get a self-centric. So for me,
Were you there for our last stream where we talked about the purpose, higher purpose, or something like that? Were you there? Did you join that stream? Or maybe you need to go and listen to
no,
that stream.
yeah,
He
you
was in
can
the
have
stream.
again
He was,
this is
Madan,
this
you
is
want to
my
say
way of
something?
thinking. Yeah,
C-Time was on. No, C-Time was in the stream itself. Just wanted to point it out.
Oh, he was in that stream? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
maybe I came later or something, because if you, or maybe I just forgot. So if you want to add something, but for me it is like if you are not going to there is no meaning afterwards,
No,
then
I
the
think you
reason says
see time.
then the
I think
reason says that you
we'll be going through the same thing that we have gone through in that stream of
C-Time.
ours, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
C-Time. Would you be?
if you haven't watched it, you need to
Yeah.
go and have a look at it, pretty much,
okay,
right?
Would you, C-Time, would you
okay,
be
okay.
able to?
But
Would you be able to summarize your point in 10 words, just to get the gist of it?
yeah,
10
yeah,
words. Would you?
what yeah, I'm saying this, that for if you ask me for uh, how to convince, then there is no one is going to convince you that there is God and there is something like that. It's not possible
Your problem,
to
I
put a
think
proof in front of it.
that was one of your problems, and the other problem you had was you didn't find any meaning, right? Basically, and a purpose, and that's why you thought that God made more sense,
Yeah,
right?
if
Is
there
that
is
correct
no
representation of
meaning
your
of
position?
exercising,
Hmm?
philosopher, if there is no meaning of these all exercise, then the person will be self-centric. That's the reasoning says. That's I'm trying to say.
All right.
So what's wrong in being self-centric?
So if you are going to be very self-centric, then it
If you
is
achieve
very
something
high chance
higher,
that
who are you gonna achieve it for?
no, if philosopher, if there is
If
something
there is a
higher
higher
in
purpose,
achieve,
who's that higher purpose for?
yeah, that's the all that's the all seeking is for. The seeking
No, but who
is
are you
for this
seeking
only,
that
no?
higher purpose for? Is it not self-centric?
No, no. That's not self-centric. No, that's exercise is not self-centric, because seeking
No,
is
I'm talking about the
what
ultimate
we
goal,
call
right? You're saying you want to
no,
achieve a higher,
not ultimate God. Yeah.
right?
See,
So I think
philosopher, what
which way
this
you look at
means?
it, it's gonna be self-centric.
No. That's not self-centric. Self-centric means you are not going to bother about others. If your actions is hurting some other some other person, or you're justifiable for your actions are justifiable or not, you're not going to see that. That's called self-centric type of action you are making. So that's the problem, because if you one example I'm giving to you, if Bhagat Singh, who is saying that he is an atheist for the word, but he has sacrificed himself, and if I think in my way, he is not atheist at all by this action, because if there is nothing higher to achieve here, he is not going to be hanged for others, for the benefit of others. You are not going to utilize your your thing for the benefit of others. It is the reasoning for being
I think
for
what
being
I think what your problem is, when you talk about these words self-centric, you take them to extremes pretty much. When you think about self-centrism, you take it as if, a self-centric person is gonna be almost a complete, what do you call, a nihilist
no, not
pretty much,
it is
right? Or not a
philosophy.
nihilist,
It is
but a
reasoning.
hedonist pretty much,
It
right?
is reason,
And that's the
reasoning
problem.
sense.
You
Reasoning sense
you
because
think of it. Hold on.
you have no
Let me
cause.
finish my point, right? Let me finish my point, and then you talk, right? I was quiet when you were talking, right? So when you take these words, when I ask you what is self-centeredness, what is wrong, and you take it to a nth degree, pretty much, a hedonist kind of a person, pretty much, right? And a person
No, no, no.
doing achieving self goals is perfectly fine in your world. Then the other extreme would be a person who would just sacrifice himself to the eternal hellfire for somebody else. That's another extreme for that, pretty much, right? And that's the problem I'm saying, that you kind of are dealing with idealistic situations, pretty much.
No, philosopher. What I am trying to say, the reasoning is saying this. Reasoning. I'm not saying everybody will act like that, but the reasoning is this: there is no cause to be a good or bad. There is no cause other
I
than the
agree. I
law
mean, I see
himself.
your point. You're saying reasoning says that. Why
Yes.
does it say that? Is that true? If that's what the reasoning says, I don't think so. I mean, I don't agree to your point, basically. How did you arrive
The
that the reasoning
reasoning,
only says that?
because you have no cause for you have no cause from
You have no
inside,
higher
you
cause.
know.
You're talking about the same thing.
You
I
have
think
no higher
Otangelo
cause
dropped
for
out, basically.
which
Hmm.
okay, yeah, because you have no higher cause. Correct, you're saying you don't have a higher cause for to benefit others. There is no higher cause, or that you will say that's that will that is a greed which you are giving to yourself for doing something good. You are going to say that, but it's not very simple like this. What I am saying is, if your morals are going to be higher within yourself, uh, like in Advait Vedanta, or you can say in there is a very much good hymn in Brihad Upanishad which says, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्ति मा कच्चित् दुःखद भावेत्, which means that it is saying that everyone should be happy, everyone should be free from ills, everyone should be the witness of good, and everyone should be free from bad doings. So these type of these type of philosophical, or you can say morals, will grow, if not grow from yours, from inside you, then you are not going to be very much what we call very much uh, what we call justy I righteous in your way. What
Right.
Sorry,
this
Let
is
me
Mohammed,
what
I
say.
I am
wanted to
saying.
jump in, right?
Let me say something to what you're saying here. So you can have self-interested behavior, and you can have non-self-interested behavior, or so you can have two extremes, right? You have a self-interest. So let me put it this way. Some people may say there's no such thing as non-self-interest because it's coming from yourself, right? So you may make a decision, for example, I want to help other people, or you may make a decision that I just want to help myself. And you can say all of those things involve a self-interest, in the sense that it comes from yourself, and there's no such thing as an unselfish thing to do, because even when you help others, you are elated or happy or satisfied by the helping of others, and therefore there is no such thing as non-selfishness.
Mada, let me go some deeper. If you want, if you let me go some deeper in the philosophy, can I? Philosopher,
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
go some deeper in the
Madin, are you
philosophy?
done? Or your mic is, I can't hear you, Madin. Were you, do you want to finish your point? I'm not quite sure if you were done with your point. Okay, it seems like Madan is having some issues. Anyway, if you want to go in, you can.
Yeah, see,
Well,
philosopher,
one thing
what?
I just wanted to say, probably, which Madan also wanted to say, is that whatever that hymn you quoted from whichever the book was, pretty much, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's not something that you need to have a book to, you know, point that out that everybody should be happy, everybody should be free of, you know,
I mean, and then it's not practically
illness and all
possible.
those things. I mean, you don't need to have some certain, you know, uh, revelation from skies to come to that kind of a conclusion, pretty much, right? I mean, there is certain level of, for me to think that Alicia does well and C Time does well and Mahadin does well. That itself gives me happiness because everybody around me, my people, my friends are doing good, and that as the world is in, you know, getting connected through, you know, faster flights, internets and whatnot, that feeling is much more about everybody now. I mean, even for people sitting in Amazons, I would feel bad if I see them starving or somebody starving, basically, you know, and if it's in my, you know, capacity to help them somehow, I would help them. And almost pretty much everybody has that feeling. Whether they can do it, you know, if they have the capacity to do it or not is a different story. But in a from an emotional standpoint, everybody feels the same way. And it's not unselfish, it's selfish because it gives me happiness. That's what Madan was talking about. It somehow makes me feel that, you know,
Hello, can you hear me?
yeah, now I
What
can
what
hear
at
you,
what
Madan.
point was I disconnected?
I'm not quite sure. I think you just started talking about, and probably you were 30 seconds in and you were talking about that selfish and complete unselfish
Yeah,
dichotomy,
no,
basically, right?
I wanted to make a slightly different point from what Phil, maybe even a different point from Phil. I'm trying to say that it's just a semantical game. It depends how you look at it, right? In the sense that there's no such a thing as a selfish, unselfish, good deed, right? And what I'm trying to say is that if you look at it as a spectrum, that if you kill yourself to help 100 other people, or if you only care about yourself and you kill 100 people just to help yourself, there is a distinction between the two things. And we may call the first one, which is when you kill yourself to help 100 other people, a non-selfish act or a selfless act. And if you and the second one, which is where you kill 100 other people to help yourself, we may call that selfish, right? And now, in a very strict sense, I can understand why both of them are called selfish. But is there a difference between the two things? And if we just want to highlight the difference between the two things, then there is a distinction, right? It makes no sense to say that both of them are equally selfish, right? They're not. One of them is much less selfish than the other one, right? And yeah, so let's just keep that in mind now. And in that sense, otherness, others and otherness helping behaviors where there's a great detriment to yourself, a great sacrifice, is an example of non-selfish behavior. It is otherness enhancing behavior, and the more sacrificial it is, maybe you can think of it like an equation. The more sacrificial to your own interests to enhance the other people's interests, the more non-selfish it is, and the more selfless it is. Maybe think of it as a spectrum. Now, if we go by that, now what Sitam was saying is that without that otherness sort of behavior, right? That I think that's what Sitam was saying, that his philosophy can provide, which is that you help other people. You have to. There's this kind of moral principle, or overriding moral principle. People who don't subscribe to that, they have no reason. That's why he said no cause. There's no reason to help other people, right? And the thing is, my objection to seed time is the following: that the reason that he helps other people can be shared in its on its fundamental basis, yeah, with atheists to also help other people. What is the reason that you may help other people? Right? The reason that you may help other people is because you may want to obey the command. Well, the atheist may want to obey the morality, right? I'm an atheist, and I do help other people and I do, for example, hold on to certain moral ideas, and I follow them, right? You do the same thing, so there's no distinction there, right? Or you may
Yeah,
want to do it.
I think, yeah, the
Yeah,
goodness
let me
becomes the good
yeah,
itself, pretty much.
yeah.
It's
You
that's
may, or Sita, you may want to do it for reward, or avoiding hellfire. But the atheist can do that as well. For example, the reason that I want to help this other person is so that I look good amongst my family, right? Or the reason I don't want to murder, even though I have this feeling of rage, right? The reason I don't want to murder is because I don't want to go to jail. So the atheist has that as well, right? So, but would you call those motivations selfless behaviors? No, not necessarily, because they're selfish, self-centered thinking, or what you call self-centric thinking. The reason that I'm not going to murder Jamie down the street is because I'm going to go to jail. But philosophers like Immanuel Kant, and there's a rich history of ethical philosophy, said that's not the proper moral motivation. The moral motivation is when you think about others, right, for their sake. So the reason I don't murder Thomas or Jamie down the street is, even though I feel rage, is because I realize that would be highly selfish. It will be really wrong. My momentary selfishness of rage doesn't justify elimination of his life. And I start thinking about this way, and then I follow that edict. And by doing that, I've acted in moral behavior, right? So you can come to those sort of conclusions even on a atheistic point of view, right? And what I'm saying, that your theism doesn't provide anything different in the mechanics of it, because you have the same stuff. Either you do things for goodness sake, or you do things because of reward or benefit, or fear of punishment. And I'm saying
No.
the latter types of stuff isn't moral behavior; it's just obedience or selfishness. Whereas the former, where you do it for the moral sake, is moral behavior, and we share
and
that.
that can be
You and I
adopted
can
by
do.
atheists as well, pretty
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Madan, what I'm saying is, you are looking my philosophy in the way of Abrahamic religion's faith. That is not the case here. Let me very much clarify you. There is no reward for us. I said in the beginning only that my philosophy doesn't care very much about God also. You know, in my philosophy, what it deals with is that in a very deep way, if you want me to go, that the person is why is the best situation, you can say, or in a best what you call, in a best state of a person is the satisfaction. And what the Advaita says is, you have to achieve the satisfaction. Okay, so in a way to achieve the satisfaction, which it connects with the state of God. The state of God is the state of satisfaction, because it's the completeness, it is the feeling of completeness in itself. So when it says you have to be on that stage, you have to be free from the desires, you have to be free from the fear and the greed, or you can say, or desire of any very what do you call, the prize, you can say, or you can say something like that, that you get
Yeah,
from
yeah, I
God,
think
good
we
things
got the
or
gist of
something.
your point, basically. Yeah, we got the gist of your
Yeah,
point, right?
so
So
what happens here is,
go ahead.
philosopher, just a minute. So it says you have to be you have to reach to a state where you feel a completeness in within yourself, means what you call, means satisfaction, and that is the state of God. So it says aham brahmasmi. You don't have to say just aham brahmasmi, that I am God. You have to feel like you are God, the full completeness within yourself, no desires, and it is the best state. So in this state you are not going to do crime,
So
you are not
you're contradicting
and you are
yourself.
not
You
going
see,
to do.
You said satisfaction. The most important thing is
yeah,
to achieve satisfaction.
yeah, and then you say with no
But in this
desires. So,
world,
but
in
you
this,
have a desire. You have a
yeah,
desire to achieve that desire where there are no
exactly.
desires,
And
basically,
you are
So
right?
now
afraid,
you
and you
have,
are
So
afraid that something wrong
uh,
might
your
happen
whole
if you don't
philosophy is
achieve that desire.
contradictions, riddled with
no, no,
contradictions,
no, no, no.
basically.
See, Alicia,
Why do you
you
have to
have
achieve
taken it
those?
very
Why do
wrong.
you have to achieve
You
those?
are not God, God now. You are not in the best state
Why do
now.
you have
I'm
to
not in the best
become
state
Brahma?
now.
What, why do you have to
So
become
you
Brahma,
have to,
basically?
so
But
so so
Advait,
you have
but
to
I
do
have,
something.
but Advait,
You
I
have to
know,
do action.
yeah, I know, I know, I know.
Also you have let me complete. Let me complete, please. Because you are not in your best state now. I am not in the best state now because I
Why do
have
you
desires.
then
Desires
you
means,
have desires to
let
become
let me
better, right?
philosopher,
Then how do you get rid of your
let me.
desires, basically? It's you
No,
don't
no, no, no,
realize
no,
that
no, no,
your
no, no, no,
whole
no.
argument is circular, pretty much, right? You don't want to,
Ah,
you with the
philosopher.
desires you want to get to a state where there are no desires, then don't have desires right now, pretty much, right? Khalas.
Philosophian desire means not going in a state of no actions. You have to do your karma, but not in a desire to achieve something, like you have to do your
Desires are
karma
to
with.
achieve a state where there are no desires, basically, right? That's the thing,
No,
right?
no, no, no. It's not the case. It's not the case. It's
You
not the
don't have
case.
any
It's not a
desires.
desire.
You don't have a desire to
Philosophical, there is,
achieve
there is, there is something
that state.
in a duty. In you have let me complete. There is a difference between a duty and you can say, which is what I say, the correct
So
word. It
duty
is
is dharma.
let me a good English word. Let me just
So
a good
dharma
English
is
word.
duty, yes or no?
Yeah, dharma is duty.
So what is kartavya?
Yeah, kartavya is also the same thing.
So why
But
two different
kartavya
words?
means, yeah, because two different words. Kartavya is a phasic thing. Like kartavya means uh, kartavya is
To
kartavya, two
protect my
different
sister, to protect my sisters from the goons in the streets. That's my kartavya, right?
I think what he's
yeah, you
saying
can
is
say.
kartavya is only temporal, but dharma is like kind of
Dharma
Eternal,
is the
long
divine.
permanent.
lasting, long
Okay,
lasting
It's
maybe.
eternal
okay,
divine. Yep, that one.
okay,
So
okay.
what I am saying is, bro, there is called a karma, uh, which is not start from your greed or from your desire. And there is also a second karma, which is called dharma. Dharma is not for the sake of some to achieve something. It is just for because it is righteous. You are doing this because it is righteous to do. It is not like you have to achieve something.
But
There's two
what
way to
if I
do
don't do the righteous thing? What if I don't do the righteous thing?
No,
What's gonna
but
happen?
then what Madan said just a few
so
minutes back
if you
makes
are
the
not
same thing, right?
if
I
you are
mean,
not doing the
you're
righteous
not
things,
putting anything
it
new on
affects
the plate,
yourself.
basically.
It
Hold on,
affects you.
hold on, hold
uh,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. You keep talking and you don't let others talk, pretty much. So let me say the same thing, right? What's the difference between what Madan said, that you can have those same kind of um, morals, probably, uh, the deontological kind of a framework for atheists as well, right? The selfless versus selfish, that argument that we had, pretty much, right? The same
yeah,
promise that, yeah.
yeah, but it will depend. Because if you are going, it is unorganized. It is not an organized way of dealing. You know, when you're doing in an individualistic sense of what you call in a sense of way, like that
See,
individualistic
I
state
I think
sense of.
now you're trying to. I think, in my opinion, at least, you're trying to, you know, defend yourself by coming up with something that's drifting away from our original question,
And
probably
I think all of this hard work and all of this mental work is
gymnastics.
only. I didn't want to use that word, man. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. I mean, I'm gonna be upfront. I'm
Okay.
the same way with
So okay.
I'm
So the reason behind that people put so much work and thinking and all this mental gymnastics, all of these arguments is only for one reason, because somehow they want to prove that religion and dharam is something different, which we are trying to say that it's exactly the same thing. You just made a new word for it. And now you just don't want to take the embarrassment that the religion has with itself. That's why you don't want to associate yourself with a religion, and you made this word dharam. Oh, it's not a religion, it's a dharam. I mean, as long as you believe in any supernatural, you are a religion. It doesn't matter if you do organized practices or not.
No, dharma. Let me come in Hindi. Can I speak a little bit in Hindi? Because making words, framing sentences in English is
all right.
going a
I think
little
what
bit
I'll
tough
suggest,
to
see
me.
time is what I'll suggest is you come when Khayali and myself are there, and when Ali is also there, because Ali can speak Urdu and Hindi, understand. So maybe we'll have,
Okay, let me
because
let
this
me
is
let me
strictly
come
an
in
English
English only.
stream, and we don't want to
Yeah, okay, no problem.
just
I
derail
will
the
try
conversation.
to continue in English only. So
Sure, sure.
see, in in dharma, if you see in the way dharma conducts itself, is not the commandment from gods. It not to achieve some praise from the god. It's not like that. If you are not doing things, you are going to be in hellfires. It is not like that. It's all depends on your it's all affect yourself. It's not for the others. If you are doing something bad to others, you are looking like you are doing something to others, but actually Advaita says you are doing what every action which you thinks you are doing on others, you are doing on yourself only. And it is and it also explain this whole mechanism in very logical way. If you go deep in the Advaita, I don't think in English I am very comfortable to explain Advaita in English in frequent way, but I will try to do this because it
Okay,
says
let me
everything.
ask you a question here. Do you think watching a naked woman taking a shower is a good thing or a bad thing without her consent?
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong.
It's bad. It's really bad. So you're saying anything bad that I'm doing to other person, I'm not doing to that other person. I'm doing it to myself. So I'm watching myself naked. I'm not watching her naked.
Yeah. You are doing bad with
Okay. So where's
yourself
the?
only. Yep.
I mean, I'm done,
Yeah.
man.
Can I just quickly say something before you said that I'm
Yep.
taking an Abrahamic view? I only gave that an example, but the point, the reason for that, I've said either you do things for others' sake or you do it for your sake, right? Or there's a combination of, maybe there's a combination of these things in between. But you can think of situations where you're helping others at great detriment to your immediate interests. Maybe you take your life away,
Hmm.
or you can do something where you take other people's life away to help you, and those are strong extreme positions to highlight the point, right? And then I gave examples of like or you might do things, and just to elaborate on that, I gave examples of, you may go and help somebody, but you doing it because there's hellfire resting upon, hellfire being dangled over your face, a threat, right, out of duress. You may do something, you may not do something, let's say go kill somebody, right? Or you may give charity because of hellfire, right? Because you don't want to go, but those would be, not other seeking behaviors. You're not thinking about the other person's interests, you're thinking about your own interests, right? Those were just mere examples to show that either you're doing something for otherness or you're doing it for yourself, right? And that's not necessarily a binary. It comes on a continuum, let's say, right? So this is applicable to your philosophy as well. It doesn't have to be a hellfire. You don't have a hellfire, but you do have some sort of reward benefit system, right? In your case, it's if you attack somebody else, you're attacking yourself, right? So there is that again hellfire element is
Exactly.
in the
Yeah,
sense that
that's the reward. Yeah, and
yeah,
punishment
the
system.
reason the reason you shouldn't, as Ali said, look at the naked woman is because you're going to hurt yourself. But I would not call that moral behavior because that's self-thinking, that's self-interested behavior, right? You're interested. The reason I don't want to, the reason I don't want to sexually harass a woman is because I'll sexually harass myself. But that's not moral behavior. That's selfish behavior, right? The selfless behavior would be even if I'm getting this kind of urge, I control it and go, actually, I'm going to look away because it harms her interests, even though it doesn't, it will enhance my interest, right? That would be moral behavior. Can you see that? That's the reason I gave those examples.
Yeah. See, how we
Okay.
are
C time.
looking
C
at
time.
it.
Sorry. C time. What I'm gonna do is we had stipulated time for each caller, so I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
cut short our conversation. Why don't you join when we have
Yeah.
a Hindi stream, basically, right?
Yeah. Sure. Sure,
And I
philosopher.
think, yeah, yeah. All right. Sorry about that, but yeah, we had decided that we're gonna only stipulate certain time to each caller, right? Otherwise, this
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Sure.
conversation is gonna keep dragging on, right?
Well,
What
Philo,
we're
Yep.
gonna
Yep. Yep.
do is we're gonna.
there's
Hmm?
nobody else. There's nobody else here. So
No,
if there was another
we'll
caller,
review the one more short that we have remaining, right? This conversation otherwise is gonna keep dragging on. I think so.
yeah. So I just want to reiterate to C time that even his philosophy has some form of self-benefit reward kind of mechanics behind it, and I wouldn't call what he's talking about moral behavior
No, no, it is
if that's the
Madan,
motivation behind it.
it is because
Yeah.
you are
Okay,
looking
C
at
time.
it.
You have one
You
minute
are
to
looking.
finish your
Yeah.
point.
Madan, see, it's some deeper. Advaita is going deeper. It is superficial because what I am saying here is just a superficial things of the Advaita, which I have put it over here. So you are looking it on this basis, and you are saying you come to a conclusion from here, but it is superficial. Maybe in next stream when Urdu or Hindi stream is going on, I will go deeper into it, and maybe let's see how logical or how good it sounds
Okay, that's
over
All
fine.
there.
No,
right,
that's
let's
fair.
see.
I forgot to mention that caveat that this is your version of it that you're expressing in a language that's not your first language, and you did mention. I remember you mentioning that there's more to it. There's more depth to it than that. Fine, that's
Yep.
unfair objection. I would like to actually hear that because I find it hard to conceive of a situation where you know by it being a harm to yourself that becomes moral behavior, right? By that sort of rationale, that
Yep.
what
Yep.
you're saying is that by harming others, and the reason why I won't do that is because it's harm to myself. But and
Yep.
that's
Yep.
the only. I still wouldn't call it moral
Yep.
behavior. I would really like to see how you can justify that with a bit more depth. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, C time. Nice talking to you. Thanks for dropping by.
No,
See you in the next
thank you. Thank you.
Hindi Urdu stream, right? All right.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Ali bhai, what's up?
Oh, all
Shall
good.
we shall
All,
we shall we start? You're gonna be on the screen. We'll
yes, yes.
review
I'll
one.
stay with you guys. I just want to say that my brother, he's see, we live in a free world, and everyone is free to believe whatever they want to. It's just that when you try to convince others, you gotta have some proofs.
Strong arguments,
Yes.
right? And yeah, I mean, see, I mean, with all due respect to C Time, he's a regular, viewer of our streams,
Yeah.
basically.
And he's
But
respectful. Yeah.
yeah, and he's respectful. So all kudos to him for listening and having really cordial But somehow I see that even though he feels that his philosophy of Advait Vedanta is like something different, I find the same kind of contorted reasonings being presented as, I mean, if he doesn't mind, let me put him as like Hindu Vakas, basically, right?
Yeah, because see, I came out of Islam. Islam is kind of a religion where you have jalebi for everything. So there's no new jalebi that you can give me and I'm gonna buy it. You know, because I've
Yeah,
heard
I
it.
mean,
I've heard it all.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like he's bringing. We've heard these arguments pretty much, right? I mean, you can't just pass these arguments through us, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so what we'll do is we'll review this. I don't know when you joined. Did you hear that short that we were reviewing
The
from
first
the
part,
beginning?
yeah, where he was saying like, why do we believe Quran over science? Because science keeps on changing, and Quran is the ultimate word of God that has never changed since the day one. And science is not sure. They always come up with new things, and then they deny the old facts. And it's just so naive understanding of science. I would say that either someone is trying to be over smart, they don't, or either someone's an ignorant of science. That's all. I mean, there's no other way around this. If you are one of those people who are still using these kind of statements like, oh, it's just a theory, it's not a law. I mean, I have nothing to say. I mean, if I have to start from teaching you the definitions, like what is a law and what is a theory and blah blah blah, I don't want to go into that. If you're 40 years old, 50 years old, and you're still stick with this nonsense that, oh, it's just a theory, it's not a fact, good luck to you, bro.
Yeah. All right. Let's then bring up the part two of this
Yep.
conversation. I don't know which one was the first one and which one was the second one. So maybe we have tackled them chronologically the opposite way, but it doesn't matter. I think let's listen to this. I think this is the one. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I think this is the one probably.
The Quran says that we created the heavens and we are expanding, and it was often pointed out that this was an error, etc. Until after Einstein, and we had the evidence from redshift that actually the universe is an expanding universe, and then no one mentions that anymore. But no one actually could understand that verse in the sense of you look up and actually the stars haven't moved. What's going on here? But they understood that if this has been stated, and we can establish that this book is from the Creator, whatever that mechanism is, that for us is something that is revelation, and we accept it unquestioningly. 1400 years ago, the Quran says that we created the.
All right, guys. Who wants to tackle this? So first come first. It wasn't Einstein who talked about the redshift, basically, right? It was, I mean, factually, basically, I think it was in 1924, maybe, or 1926 or 27, when Hubble made these um, remarkable discoveries about the galaxies, drifting apart from each other and the redshift and all those things. That's when this notion of that the universe is expanding came into, and it was not through Einstein probably, right? Because Einstein had a problem with his equation, and he thought that the cosmological constant should have been zero, basically, in his opinion, because he thought the universe was static, pretty much, right? In any case, this is a little bit of a science lecture in a sense, just a mild, factual correction to Imran. But anybody who has noticed that in the previous short that we ran, he talked about that inductive arguments, and of course he has corrected towards the end himself. He has corrected that if we believe this to be a revelation, then we can see that this confirms it. But basically, then if you examine it closely, it looks like this his reasoning is circular. I mean, he's trying to. I mean, he's portraying it in a very subtle way, but you have to look that how would somebody 1400 years ago know that the universe is expanding, right? Then this must be from God. And then from a couple of seconds later, maybe he says, or maybe half a minute later, he says, if we came to the conclusion that the Quran is from God, I mean, this is it doesn't square up pretty much, in my opinion, right? Madan, what do you think?
Just say the last part again. Sorry, say the last part again. What doesn't square up?
So in at one point he says that who would have known 1400 years ago that something like that this verse says heavens and the earth were once together, and we are something like we are expanding the which verse is that? This is not Surah Anbiya verse 30. I think this is a separate verse. I forgot which one is it, but we are the expanders of it, or something like that. It has a different verb as well, pretty much, right? But it says we are expanding it. The current meaning that is taken is we are expanding it, pretty much, right? And he's saying, who would have known this to be true, that scientists have discovered only after Einstein, incorrectly so he says Einstein, basically. But then he corrects himself later on that, if we assume that the Quran is the revelation pretty much from God, then you would expect this to be known to, through the revelation, right, 1400 years back, right? You see the point I'm trying to make? Basically, it's a subtle circular reasoning he's espousing, even though he tries to exculpate himself from that uh, uh, subtle circular reasoning, basically, right?
Why is it circular? Just expand a bit more.
So what I'm saying is, he used who would have known this verse 1400 years back, that is proven by science only in the beginning of 19th century, right? We are expanding the universe, right? And then he goes on to say that if we assume the Quran to be a revelation, if we come to know that the Quran is a revelation from God, then I'm I'm assuming that he wants to say that then we would
Yeah, it's just
expect
the
this
scientific
verse to
miracles
be,
argument. But I don't think the
yeah,
scientific
scientific miracle.
miracles. I don't think the scientific miracles argument is circular. Are you saying his expression makes it sound like it's circular? I
Yeah,
don't
his
think he intended
expression
it.
makes it sound
Yeah, I
circular.
think it's.
Not that
I think
not
that's
that
just his.
scientific
Yeah.
miracles is circular.
No, I don't
The
think the
way he has
scientific.
used
Yeah,
it over here, the argument that
maybe.
he has put forth, right?
Yeah, I was trying to pinpoint exactly what you meant. I think we'll have to be charitable here in the sense that that's just the words that the way he expressed it. If we assume, but I don't think he's starting off with the conclusion that it came from God. Then it would be, if as an argument, if in the argument you already have the conclusion, right? Then that's circular, right? The circular argument is when the conclusion is in one of the premises of the argument, and that would be completely circular. Now, did he really mean it like that? I think that was just an expression of language. I think what he meant was to say, if it came from God, then we would have an expectation. Sorry, so the best he should set it like the following: the best explanation to explain why something that was not known to humans 1400 years ago was found in a book that humans could have not possibly known. The best explanation, the best theory to explain that it was due to divinity, right? That it didn't come from humans, because so the argument is that there's a fact that is known by humans prior to the rest of human civilization that was only known many centuries later to all of the rest of the humans, right? That it cannot be explained through sheer human knowledge. Therefore, it can one explanation is that it came from outside human knowledge. So the best explanation is that it came from outside human knowledge, and that explanation is God, something like that. I don't think that's necessarily circular. It might be false. It is false.
But
Yeah.
you have put it in the right way, pretty much. You have
Mm.
steelmanned his argument, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That's not how I heard it, basically, right? I mean, if you want, I'll run it. Maybe I missed that part where he said if, had he used that if at the very beginning, probably, then what you're saying is right. But I think maybe that's the way the short is cut, probably.
Yeah.
Sorry.
but yeah, like I think you wanted to emphasize as well that if you attack induction in one breath, and then you use science to prove God in a second breath, then there's a contradiction, because you're saying that we can't rely on human knowledge because it's fallible, uncertain. Induction means that new knowledge can overwrite previous knowledge. Therefore, that knowledge isn't reliable, if that's what you're saying. But then you,
Yeah,
in another
exactly.
breath,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
you
you can't
use
you can't use that.
you use the
Sorry, go ahead.
same knowledge as a measure to demonstrate the existence of the Quran, which is the scientific miracles argument. Then that's a contradiction. I mean, you've already weakened science. So if science is uncertain, you can't use an uncertain source, right, to say that it proves the Quran, because you've already said that you can't believe in it
Yeah, you can't
with
you
that
can't
set of
use an
certainty.
inductive argument to come to a conclusion for an objective truth. Basically,
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. If that's what they believe, so they're being internally inconsistent here. Internally inconsistent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And okay, let's be charitable. And as Mahadan said, what I pointed to as a subtle circularity in Imran's argument, let's forget that. I just wanted to point that, but that was a side point basically, and just a minor point. But the primary point is what Mahadan pointed out. If you heard us talk about that first short that we ran at the beginning of the stream, that's where he said, and Mahadan explained it well, that he was saying that science is inductive and the revelation is, objective, and that's why we can't trust science. And in this short, we heard quite the opposite, kind of an inconsistency in his approach, pretty much. And there's another problem, and that's a factual problem, as that this thing that I think. Maybe I'm going. There's another verse that's being used to say that there is science in the Quran, and I think heavens and the earth were once together. They try to pinpoint to Big Bang. And this is also one of the verses that they use sometimes to, say that, oh, see how the science. Of course, Imran hasn't used that verse over here. I just wanted to highlight that this is another verse that is sometimes, in conjunction with the first verse that Imran is using, is used to say that, oh, okay, look at this, and there is science and all that thing. So this is problematic. But the main point that we wanted to highlight was that he's being inconsistent while saying no, science we can't we can't trust science and we trust revelation. But in the second breath, he's just talking about this scientific miracle kind of thing in the Quran. So yeah, I think that's the minor point we wanted to make. These two shorts were probably are coming from one single conversation, and so we just wanted to cover both of them. Ali, you want to add something to it, or Mahadan, you want to add something to it? I don't think there's much more to it.
No, I mean, it's false, obviously, because just taking it at face value is false. So as ex-Hindu Hakas is here, so saying something like the expanding universe, it doesn't mention anything about an expanding universe, right? So if we go by the thinking that it came from God, then there would have been a bit more detail to explicitly and expressly use better language to actually demonstrate that it's talking about expanding universe, and not use sloppy language, right? So it's obviously human beings, they're kind of just manipulating the words and trying to kind of find some sort of connection or correlation between what's says in the Quran and some sort of fact in the world. But what it actually says in the Quran is something that people of the time could have said about the size of the current universe. I think expanding just meant vastness or something like that, if I'm correct. But there's different opinions, but it doesn't unequivocally and unambiguously mean that it's referring to some sort of universal expansion, right? And that's all we got to point out. And therefore, they could have acquired that knowledge just simply by the usages that were meant at the time. So when we interpret a text, we should interpret the text based on what the likely meanings are. So if,
what
for
it was
example,
understood at that time, pretty
yeah,
much, right?
exactly.
And so
Yeah. So let
I
me just
agree
let me just
your, to
quickly
your point, Madan.
yeah, let me just quickly
Yes.
finish the point. Like if you read William Shakespeare, and William Shakespeare's talking about swords. Now, a 21st century person may think that a sword that was created in 2022, he was referring to that because it says sword, even if it says the word sword, right? But he wasn't. William Shakespeare had no idea of any modern day swords or weapons. He was referring to the weapons or the swords of the time, and that was probably what he was talking about. And that's kind of how you historically may interpret a text. You interpret the meaning based on the relative understandings of the time, how the words were used during that time, etc. You don't you If you try to expand that word and start relating it to things happening today, that would be somewhat mischievous and scholarly wrong. And that's how we interpret history. And any historian who goes and says, anybody who says, for example, that William Shakespeare was referring to the weapons of today, when he says weapons or sword or whatever, he's talking about a weapon of mass destruction. That would be just stupidity, right? It will be laughed out the court. It'll be wrong. You
Martin,
know,
have you heard of the book called The Man on the Moon? I don't know if you've already discussed it or not, but have you heard of the book Man on the Moon that was written like 30, 40 years before when we actually went to the moon?
no, I've not. I've not.
So there's a book. It's called Man. It depicts exactly the same thing, that man is gonna go to the moon one day, and we did. But so what?
Yeah, yeah. So that could be an additional point as well. Like, so you can have multiple arguments against this. Like the first point that I'm talking about, that in terms of historical interpretation, what the Quran was referring to can be explained in a simpler way, based on the historical meanings of the time, and therefore, unless you can make an unequivocal or unambiguous case that it was talking about the future, but when God could have spelled it out in exact detail. That I'm not talking about the word expanding, how it was, or the meanings of the time. I'm talking about this thing that is only going to be learned in the 19th century. He could have done that. The fact that he didn't is a case against Islam, right? Because God could have done that, but man would have reiterated the wordings of the time. And guess what? In the Quran, we just see the reiteration of the wordings of the time, and we don't have to elaborate in knowledge that God could have done. Therefore, the theory of man-madeness is the better fit candidate. But there's other objections, like you've just mentioned, which is that even if something was predicted in the past, because things can be predicted from the past, maybe a theist can make the distinction that the type of prediction matters, right? If it's really difficult.
I think we need to distinguish between two things. One is
But,
prophecies or predictions versus the scientific miracles as
yeah, yeah.
to
But let me just say,
scientific knowledge, basically.
yeah, yeah, yes. So, yeah, true. It's not really an explicit prediction, but they both fall into the category of knowing something before its time, right? They both
Yeah,
fall in the
yeah,
idea that
yeah.
there is some sort of unknowable knowledge that came before its time, and it can only be explained by a divine source. And it's all of that is wrong. It doesn't. First of all, it can't only be explained by a divine source, right? You don't need an omnipotent deity to explain it. How do you get? That's called in philosophy called the gap problem, right? You only need a being that is capable of telling the future, maybe.
Right,
How do
right.
you get his other option, right?
We agree on
So
that
you still don't
completely.
get God. That's one flaw. And the other thing, there is other explanation. There's natural explanations. For example, the one that I've just said, that it wasn't really prophesizing anything. It was just talking about other things. But taking to Ali's point, which is that so what if something's? Let me just make a more relevant comparison. Let me just strengthen the point. For example, the Greek philosopher Democritus is usually hailed as being one of the first people who knew about the atom, let's say, because he made vague references, not even vague, quite illustrious references to talking about um, something that is an irreducibly small entity that cannot be reduced further, referring to the smallest unit of things. And that is correlated with, or people think that is, historians think that is the first kind of understanding of the atom. And this was foreshadowed prior to the Quran. Now, before Democritus, arguably there may not be any detailed explanations like that. And let's say the historians are correct about that, right?
And
Now,
when you talk about Democritus, it wasn't a
yeah,
scientific discovery that he did. It was just a
yeah,
logical conclusion that he come up to. Like, okay, you know what? This is a piece of metal. I'm gonna break it into two, and then I'm gonna break that into
yeah,
two, and then I'll break that into two. And there's gonna be
yeah,
a point where I'm not gonna be able to break it into two. And that's a logical reasoning. That's not
mm,
scientific. There's no scientific research
mm,
done behind it.
yeah. But so would we now say the fact that Democritus knew this, right, and the atom was discovered centuries later, and there's a correlation between the two things, that Democritus was God or a messenger of God or inspired by divine inspiration? In fact, everything has an ultimate origin. Every some sort of idea would have predecessors and then predecessors before that, but ultimately some of them have maybe an origin story. Maybe we go back in history and we don't hear about the idea before that time. Would that mean every idea in humanity that came out in historical antiquity is an indication of divinity? Because there will always, any idea that was known in the past that was given a breakthrough in the future would therefore be, according to this structure of thinking in the scientific miracles, an indication of divine knowledge, right?
Exactly.
So if you don't,
exactly.
you know, so it's flawed in that base as well. So, but yeah, so like Ali said, so what if you know certain things about the future? It doesn't necessarily mean that it actually came from a divine source.
But I
Sometimes it
don't
can
even
be.
have to know the future. I can just take a wild guess. For example, the street that I live on, it's called the King's Street. And I can surely, confidently say one day there's going to be an accident on that street. I'm not going to tell you when exactly. I'm just going to say, oh, one day there's going to be a big accident on this street and two people would die. And definitely someday in 100 years, in 10 years, in 1,000 years, of course there's going to be an accident because accidents happen every day. So one day, of course, my statement will come true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right, right. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's say this is uh, it's not as the cases that they're talking about are more
complex.
rarer kind of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. I was going to
So
say the
in a
same thing.
sense,
Perhaps you
yeah,
could say that the type of prophecy that Ali is saying is inevitable,
it's
probabilistic.
mundane. It's
Right.
mundane, of mundane
Yes.
nature, really
Yeah.
mundane nature.
Yeah. Exactly. But the thing is, with the scientific miracles argument, if you have a text that has numerous writings, you can do this with all text, and you can do it with astrology. This goes back to the how we did a stream on prophecies, remember, and we did a stream about chance and probability to explain these things through
Exactly.
just luck. And there's a book on it by David Hand, how miracles come true, how prophecies come true, and that's actually exactly how prophecies tend to come true. Why do astrologers get it right every week? Well, because they use kind of vague language, lots of writing, lots of text, and there's millions and millions of people. It'll come true inevitably, just like
And
Ali's.
you can choose 4 or 5 different areas of life, for example, health, marriage, travel, and job, and then you can say anything you want on these 4 topics and it will come true for someone.
Exactly, yeah. So you can make the same point that because the Quran is a decently lengthy text with lots of writing and it's kind of vague and ambiguous, right? You can make it somehow come true like that, and that's one explanation why it might seemingly come true, particularly because some of the cosmological ideas about the origins of the universe or how it is, the wordings are such that it can map into many different things, right? Like it's either expanding or it's either not expanding, it's flat or large, and these are ideas that were entertained then, and some people still entertain it now, and therefore they can map into many scientific theories, right? And that's not necessarily therefore coming through due to divine knowledge. It's just coming through due to the words that we're using, combination of chance and a bit of human ingenuity.
It's a
Yeah,
lot to do with the vagueness of the
yeah,
wordings itself, basically, right? And that's why I'm what I'm saying, Madan, and you stated that earlier as well. The best way to understand the text is when it was written and what it was meant, the words meant at that time, pretty much, right? And if you see all these books, whether it be Bible or the Vedas or any other scripture from any religion, right? You'll see that the meanings of the words have evolved, and pretty much modern day apologists pretty much take whatever the meaning fits their comports to the reality, pretty much makes their books look great, pretty much, right? And that's what is happening. I think with this verse, as far as I remember, the word here is not that we are expanding it. So this is not what do you call present continuous. What is it called, by the way? We are the expanders of it, was what the original word meant. But that's the beauty of the vague language. You can take it to mean whatever you want, pretty much, whatever serves your purpose or whatever serves your agenda, pretty much, right? And so this, these couple of verses have stuck into or got etched into our minds pretty much, right? And I think the strongest objection to this argument, Madan, you stated that, and that's that the structure, if you are willing to take this structure, then you'll have to believe by default that every invention that was made by a human has to be divine, pretty much, right? I think that's the conclusion of it. And if you don't believe that anyone who came up with whatever the inventions were or whatever they said, wrote, then whatever you're saying here. And the second one is that you can't tell whether even if somebody is willing, if somebody had a foreknowledge about something about this universe or even the prophecies that they did does not point to divine. You'll still need a linking premise to that pretty much.
Yeah, you definitely do. You because if I do a magic trick, if I predict Ali Shah's family history, you know, I might be psychic. It doesn't mean I'm God, right? And doesn't mean I was. It doesn't mean God helped me. Why would you? How would you conclude that God helped me? God is like an omnipotent, omniperfect, omnipresent, omnibenevolent being in this
Yeah,
context.
Martin, you
And
can't even
yeah,
come to the conclusion that all knowing property. You can
yes,
say that some knowing probably, some
yes.
future knowing property you can ascertain
Yeah,
from that, but not
and
all
this is
knowing.
consistent. This is consistent with how we think about other stuff. For example, if Stephen Hawking, um, better than everybody else, does something, let's say he works something out, it doesn't mean he has all knowing property. We don't think that, right? In fact, Stephen Hawking knew things that many people didn't know, so he was exceptional, right? Or Albert Einstein. But we never thought that they are divinity, or that they are omni knowledge, omnipotence in knowledge, or omniscience, I should say, omniscience. We just thought they have more knowledge. Yeah,
Omniphysicist, pretty much, right?
omniphysicists. Yeah, we just think they have more knowledge than humans. In the same sense, if Prophet Muhammad, for example, knew something before other humans, we would just think that he has more knowledge, and maybe even maybe supernatural. It doesn't even get to supernaturalism. It doesn't get to. Why should we think it's supernatural? Maybe have an extrasensory perception or whatever. In order to add more to it, we need more evidence to show that this being has all knowledge. And then if you want to think he's omnibenevolent, then we need some evidence for that he's morally perfect in every way. Those need to be independently established to add more to it, right?
Each
Otherwise
set
you're
of
like,
attributes is going to require some
yeah,
linking
what
premises,
theists
pretty
what
much,
theists
right?
do, they do a sweeping, they prove the least, and they make a sweeping conclusion to the most. Right? They
Exactly.
make this massive jump, and this is why in philosophy it's called the gap problem. There's a gap between what they prove, and sorry, gap between what but gap between what they claim to prove and the conclusion that they make. They prove, let's say hypothetically, if they're successful, that this knowledge didn't exist during the seventh century, and then they make a massive gap. They try to cross that gap by saying, well, this can only come from a perfect being. No, it doesn't. It can come from imperfect beings as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Ali, you want to add something to what we discussed
I
earlier
mean,
about this?
no, Madin explained it pretty well. I just want to add one more example of kind of example that he was adding into. Nikola Tesla, when he first gave the idea of wireless electricity, people thought he was crazy, but then it became possible, and then we thought that okay, it's not in a more economical way, but then but it is possible to transmit electricity without wires. But we don't think Nikola Tesla was God just because he came up with something no one else knew about. And there are people who are super genius, who fall into a super genius category. It just don't mean that they are God. They just have some ability to process things better than others, and that's it.
Agreed, agreed. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
right.
think this our brothers here just take a huge leap, basically. Just give them an inch and they'll take a mile, pretty much, right?
And
So
then again, I think it wasn't. I think he used Einstein's name while trying to explain the redshift and blah blah blah. I don't think it was Einstein.
No, it was Edwin Hubble, basically.
Edwin Hubble. Yeah, he
Edwin Hubble
himself.
came up with in
Yeah.
1927, if I remember correctly. I think probably 1926 or 1927. He was at the Wilson Observatory near, I think, Los Angeles or someplace probably.
Hmm.
So that's where those yeah, he
Yeah.
was at the Mount
Yeah.
Wilson,
Also,
basically
the Peter
observatory.
Higgs.
Yeah,
Peter Higgs predicted a particle 60 years ago, and we just found it. But so what?
right, right. Yeah, that's what
I
I
mean,
mean.
yeah. Some people would say that we're being overly picky when we talk about this gap problem as well. That we want things to be crystal clear and every part has to be established. And I've had that objection when theists say it doesn't have to be perfect. If, for example, there's lots of miracles in a text, that's good enough reason for them to believe in God, right? And I think that is wrong. And it's not that we're being over cynical or over critical or having an over expectation. I think they're being highly what's the word, loosening the standards of evidence, really, because we don't think like that for any other matter, right? And I'll give you an example. If, for example, there was an alien, we discovered an alien, and we are in the kind of, we are exploring the universe, that might be a real possibility. Let's say NASA genuinely discovers a life form and we communicate with it, and then it starts doing all these different things, like it shows that it can transport, like it has all these kind of quote unquote magical powers. It's not magical, maybe it's natural, but it just has a different physics or something, or different capabilities, right? It can transport itself from one place to another using some sort of physics, wormhole or whatever, right? And it can go from one place to another very quickly, very fast, very efficiently. And nobody else can do that. We can't do that, obviously, but this alien can. It can also predict the future and all this. Would we as a collective, let's say this was on BBC News, Sky News tomorrow, would we all just suddenly go, this being is omnipotent? No. Why would it'll be we would just say this being can do these things. We don't know whether it can do other stuff, right? That would be a sensible conclusion, right? You'll need more evidence to add to that, to go, all right, it has all these other skill sets as well. We won't conclude that, oh, since it can transport itself from one place to another, that alien has a wife. The alien makes great love to his
or
wife.
he can he
He's
can write Shakespearean poetry or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. We won't, unless
yeah.
it's like a transferable skill that we can acquire from that one skill that we saw, right? But if it's like completely far apart or something like that, we wouldn't think that. We wouldn't think any of those things, right? In fact, it'll be highly irrational and highly unprotective of the human race to go like that. Go about, you won't invest in technology. Going, oh, this alien's been found. This is definitely something that has all these other skills as well. We'd be like, maybe it has all these other skills, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just stops there. Just like we as a human being compared to an ant, we can write poetry, we can do so many things, right? We can discover things and learn physics. To an ant, it may look like we're gods, but we're not. We know we have all these skills. Yeah, the relative difference between us and ants is a lot. We have all these skills, right? We have many skills, but we don't have an infinity of skills, right? And in the same sense, it could be between us and that alien. Yeah, there's a big relative difference in skills. It can transport itself, it can do all these other stuff, it can predict the future, but it may not have other skills, just like we don't have other skills. The alien may be limited as well in its abilities elsewhere, and that's just a rational, normal way of sensible way of going about it. And every scientist every good thinker would make the same point. I don't think anybody would disagree with me here. They may speculate what other skills they may have. They won't conclude it from what we saw, and that's just a sensible way of going about it. It's not. Therefore, does that sound overcritical? No, it's not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I I think yeah, it's probably time to close the stream. I think I hope I'm not sounding absurd that we are just absurd, not absurd, but abruptly closing the stream. Basically, I think we decided that we're gonna run up to 2 hours or so. Ali, unless until you want to add something more, or Madin, you want to add something more that occurred to you. I think it was a decent stream. I think we had a nice conversation with Otangelo and as well as Sea Time. I think, of course, we don't buy any of their arguments per se. And yeah, if Yeah, I think it was a decent conversation, as well as the shorts that we ran of Imran. I think at least I didn't see anything really of substance in those arguments, and I have been to their channel, and maybe when we get a chance, we'll run through it and critique it. But yeah, I think it's hard to go to their streams and then I think we give enough time to our interlocutors for them to put their arguments in and even steer the conversation at times. But in these dawa um, channels, if you go there, you just can't, be free to talk whatever you want. You just have to follow whatever the way they, handle the strings, pull the strings pretty much, right? So, but yeah, I think I had a decent conversation with them, but they just didn't let me, freely talk or put my points. So that said, Martin, you want to have any closing remarks, or Ali, if you want to have any closing remarks before I hand you over the mic? By the way, I'll ask anybody who's listening to support us whichever way you can. Pretty much, I think maybe and probably Ali would tell us. I think this is the only channel where we do deep dive into philosophy as much as we can. Probably, I think there is no other channel that does that for Islam, as compared to maybe there are a lot of Christian channels which do that, but for Islam, I think we are the only one, at least from subcontinent, probably, that does in Hindi as well as Urdu. So you can see that all the information is going under the banner section. If you want to support us, you can support us over there. And if not, the best way you can support us is by sharing our channel. And there's another channel called Unveiling Faith, which is our English only channel. I've been saying that again and again, that we want to shift our English only streams on that channel and make this one Hindi Urdu channel, so that our users in India or subcontinent can find it easy to listen to the streams on this channel, as well as those in the Western Hemisphere or in the West or English speaking nations can listen to us. So yeah, I think spread the word is what I would say, and like, subscribe, share, basically. All right, Madan, Ali, you have any closing remarks? All right, Madan, Ali, no, okay. I'll just then
Do you want to
close.
tackle
Well,
this point as well? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I said,
So let's read Bilal's
yeah.
comment. Muslims' point would be that Muhammad couldn't write or read, and the fact that he had a book like Quran with its eloquence is a miracle and would not be just one scientific miracle. Yeah, I think
your
yeah.
your hadith and your Islamic literature actually do not support this claim that Muhammad did not know how to read and write. It's just one of those things that is just super famous and popular in your groups, that you propagate this, that he couldn't read, he couldn't write. Well, your own, the Muslims' scripture, it don't go with that claim. He did know how to write and he did know how to read, especially when you look at the Sulh Hudaybiyah. There was a letter where Kuffar said, "Oh, we cannot accept him as a prophet. So instead of Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah, you should write Muhammad bin Abdullah." And then when he asked Ali to remove his name and just put Muhammad bin Abdullah, Ali said, "No, I'm not gonna do it." So Muhammad took that agreement from Ali, removed his name, and wrote his own name, Muhammad bin Abdullah, instead of Muhammad Rasulullah. So this thing, and there's a lot of other examples, there's lot of other references I can give you, that the Muslim narrative, the historical narrative, it doesn't go with this claim.
All right, I think there are so many problems with this claim if Muslims point to that, basically. So first thing first, it assumes a very fundamental thing, that the Quran that you have at our homes, basically, comes from a single person. You'll have to really prove that point, basically, that all of the Quran can be attributed to a single person. I'm of the opinion, and I don't have substantive evidence to prove my point, but I'm of the opinion that the book uh, does not come from a single person and probably was compiled through different people pretty much. And the stories that come in the Hadith literature point to not just one person but multiple people pretty much, right? And that's a testament basically, right? Another problem is of that eloquence pretty much. And eloquence is a very subjective point pretty much. When you point someone saying that a book like Quran with its eloquence, what do you mean by eloquence? For somebody that might be eloquence, somebody else that might not. I mean, if you take it to a Christian, probably they won't, or a Hindu. I mean, he won't agree to your point that it's eloquent. He would say, no, my Vedas are more eloquent, probably, right? Or my whatever other books, whatever book he might have. For him or her, those books might be more eloquent, right? So eloquence is subjective, right? Who's to say that which book is more eloquent, right? I think it's a tie basically at best. So those are some of the points basically. Madan, I don't know if you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that.
no. So I would say, of course, there's no strict evidence regarding Muhammad being unable to read or write, and furthermore, as Ali said, there's a lot of hadith, including during his death, where writing capabilities was suggestible or inferable from the text that he actually did know how to read and write and so on and so forth. But it doesn't even rest. It doesn't necessarily have to rest on that premise. Let's say we could conclude, certainly the case, that Muhammad could not read or write. He could still hear, and historically speaking, the mode and means of communication of that time, one of the major ones was through rote memory and retelling knowledge by vocalizing it, by lectures and so on. And in fact, there's many hadiths on him visiting areas of the Roman Empire, etc., and seeing many knowledgeable things, obtaining knowledge from other cultures, etc., and so on. Even Hamza Tzortzis, who actually said that the scientific miracles is debunked, who actually holds the view that the scientific miracles don't exist, has written a paper on this. He was in IERA at the time. In 2015, he said, many of the things that we've said here already, including the fact that Muhammad could not read and write does not mean he could not learn things from other cultures. And I can't remember the hadith, so you may want to look at his paper if anybody wants to double check what I'm talking about. But he learned, there were indications and instances where he, through his trade and in his voyages, etc., he learned things from other cultures. So he could have just picked knowledge up from other cultures. It doesn't, just because somebody can't read or write doesn't mean he can't pick it up from knowledgeable people on his trades and other cultures. So that would falsify that. So it's not. We don't even need to show that we don't have to. Show that he could read or write. We don't have to do that. But then also, as Bilal says, it's not merely the fact that it's a single scientific miracle, but many scientific miracles, etc. But if you individually tackled each of them, showing that each one can be explained by a better theory, right? Either, for example, it was plagiarized from a known source at the time, therefore it wasn't beyond man of the time, right? And there's plenty of scientific information, if you want to call it, in the Quran that was known actually at the time. It wasn't beyond.
Majority of these scientific so-called scientific miracles were known knowledge to people of that time, the Greeks or the Sumerians or the Babylonians or the Egyptians or the Chinese, right? Sorry, carry on, please.
Yeah, well, that's all I want to know. That's really what I wanted to say. So most of it was kind of known. I mean, most of it are not beyond the people of the time, and or people are just seeing stuff in the text that isn't just simply there. Like when it says that the moon is swimming in the sky or something like that, people just go and infer that to be is talking about orbits, and orbits weren't really known or something like that, right? But that when it talks about the moon swimming or something like that, there's a simpler explanation, which is that um, it's just the movement of the moon itself can be described as swimming. It doesn't. So from that text to go to the most difficult, most miraculous explanation, the most extraordinary interpretation, which is that it's talking about orbit, is unjustified, right?
Exactly.
Because all it's saying or at best, all it's saying is moving. It is moving, and people knew that at the time.
There are hadith that contradict those things. Basically, the sun goes underneath, and all those things. Basically, I mean, you'll have to really do the word that we used. I think with Dvait Vedanta. What's his name? C time. That you have
And
to
not
do
just that,
real mental gymnastics to come to those extraordinary.
yeah, I guess not just that, first of all, Allah Himself comes down to the lowest sky from His throne. I mean, there are so many things that goes into it. Also, just because someone, okay, I can buy partially this argument that Muhammad did not know how to read and write until the certain age. And then he learned. That's something I can believe on. But he did not know how to. And then again, what does it prove? Like,
Isn't that true for everybody? Pretty much.
and then yeah, and then then again, what's the difference? How does it even make a difference? Like, we have so many poets, successful poets, essayists, novelists who did not know how to read and write, but so what, they became successful in their careers, like YB Yeats, like Scott Fitzgerald was so bad at his school, he was kicked out of the school when he was only 12 years old. George Bernard Shaw. Have you heard George Bernard Shaw, the famous essayist? He did not know how to read and write, but he's a famous essayist. So I still don't buy this point. Even if he was illiterate, that doesn't give him any supremacy.
Yeah, I agree.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Madan, I took what's his name, Vakas,
Yeah.
for a bit.
So
Do
let
you
me
want
just
to
finish though.
have a
Like, if you,
conversation with him, or
so even if you have 20 or 30 alleged miracles, right? That's only if they are they're actual miracles. If you individually debunk each one of them, then you no longer have 20, and that's the whole point. So it's not, etc. And yeah, that's what we can do. We can individually debunk pretty much all of them. And
no? I think
yeah.
Madan, we only need to debunk one, and then the rest is because their case is absolute case, basically objective. Even if one is proven to be false, basically, and then the whole case is just like falls down like a house of
It
cards.
depends how you debunk it. If you debunk it to show there's an error, yes. If you debunk it in a way to show that this could have been known by Muhammad, then it doesn't prove.
I agree.
It won't prove that.
I don't even have to debunk anything. Just prove it to me. I mean, you know what? Like, after the invention of camera, show me any miracle coming to life. I'll just believe on it. But why did no miracle happen? Like why these miracles stopped happening after the invention of the camera?
Right.
Yeah, not just camera. Not just camera, but science itself.
Hello.
Yeah. So why miracles don't happen now?
Yeah.
Fellow sapiens, how are you?
All right. Okay, Vakas, we were about to close the stream. So now that you're here, let's say 5 or 10 minutes at max, we can run our conversation. Is that okay?
Okay, next time. No problem. I just
No,
came
you
here
can
to
still
mention
you
and
can still talk to us for 5 to 10 minutes. Is that's okay?
okay, listen. I first of all, I just came here to actually I am in a work, so I cannot talk so much. But actually, I also came here to debunk one of your arguments, but because you like the arguments if it's in your favor. You never think about those arguments are truly fitting on your something whatever you want to present or you want to whatever your agenda is. So if this argument, any argument which proves your agenda correct, then you say, okay, that's good, very good. So the argument build was actually especially related to the prophecy or maybe the scientific fact, which is also written in Quran about the universe expanding, and someone says and give an example that there is a book, The Moon in the Man, or The Man in the Moon, and it was written 34 years before, when actually the man go to the moon. And you said, oh, that's good, very good. That's a good argument, which proves us very good. So here's the problem. Actually, who said that the book was written, The Moon in the Man, The Man in the Moon, 34 years when
Man on the moon.
the man, yes, The Man on the Moon, and whatever that book is. Who said? If, for example, today Mahadin, Philosapiens, and we three together was working on something that we create something, we recreate, for example, we recreate aeroplane, which will give us fly. And someone used that idea and wrote any book. Okay, man is flying in some type of aeroplane. So this is totally different. If you want to use this argument, especially when you take someone's another argument and you want to fit your argument, so you have, first of all, you have to prove that expanding universe that was already has been accepted for someone's or some people or a bunch of people. They are already talking about this idea. Okay, universe is expanding, and we are seeing is it true or not. And then someone says, okay, universe is expanding. So obviously, then this argument is valid. Otherwise, it was totally a wastage of waste material, especially against this one. But obviously, because someone is arguing to prove your thing, so you say, oh yeah, that's good argument. So I just came here to
Yeah, I
debunk
understood your
and
point.
to
I
confirm
understood your
the
point. No,
Yeah,
no,
but
no, not too many points. Not
Wakas,
too many points.
Wakas,
Not too many points.
Wakas, I gave Ali Shah just gave one example, but I gave multiple examples of things in the past that was known.
Yeah. No, Madan, the
Multiple.
fundamental
Madin,
problem.
Madin, let's stick with this example that
Yeah.
he's trying to debunk, and we will debunk him on it. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's saying because NASA was working way
Philosapiens, I'm
earlier.
talking, first of all, I'm talking with you.
I'm
That's
talking
very
with
important.
Philosapiens too. I'm not talking to you.
Okay,
Who said that I'm talking
I
to you?
never talk. I'm here to talk with human beings. Okay.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm not talking to you.
Hold on, Vakas. No, see, no disrespect. When you're on my channel, no, please, no disrespect to any of the members on the screen, right? That's not
All right,
how.
so
I
let's
won't allow that kind of.
let's
Let's
continue
have a
to.
civil conversation. Let's have a cordial conversation. You have, if you have
Okay.
any
So,
problems
do
with
you
Ali
think
Shah,
Philosapiens? Do you
forget
think
those problems on
Philosapiens?
on
Listen,
this channel.
Philosapiens.
Listen.
So you won't let
Listen,
me
brother.
finish, huh?
Listen.
Hold on.
Uh, uh, Philosapiens. Listen. Do you think that if I think something negative, is it subjective or objective?
You don't want me to
Forget
answer?
about that.
We just want to stick to this first. We don't want to run.
So it's I never
Don't
say
change. Don't
philosophy. I
change the
never
goalpost.
ask you.
Because you
I
want
never
to talk to me,
philosophy.
that's
I
perfectly
never
fine. Hold on. Listen to me. Listen to me.
because he's not a human person. I never see a human
Hold on.
who are doing
No.
blasphemies and
Hold on.
always
Listen to me.
okay.
Listen to me. I'll have
Talk.
to mute you. Or you have any problems with Ali? You don't want to talk to him, even on our channel here. Perfectly fine. That's your prerogative, right? What I'm not gonna allow you to do is to insult or disrespect somebody, right? You can talk to me perfectly fine. Ali is talking to me as well, perfectly fine. I have already told Ali not to use any language that is demeaning of anybody
Yep.
listening
No
to this
blasphemy
channel.
on your channel. I promise to you, no
perfectly
blasphemy on your channel.
right. Is that
Okay,
true?
so let's
Right,
go back.
Vikas?
Let's go back to the point where he said the NASA was working way, 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 way earlier than actually going to the moon, which is simply false. This book was written in November 1922. Okay, and the NASA started working on Apollo missions in 1959. The first Apollo mission was Luna 1, and then Luna 2 in 1959, then Luna 3 in 1959, and then the Ranger, and then the Apollo 7 in 1968, and Apollo 8 in 1968, and then Apollo 11 in 1969. So you are not true when you said the NASA was working on the moon landing way, 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 way earlier. No, it only started working on it in 1959 when we sent the first Luna 1. Before
All
that,
right,
NASA
Ali.
was not working on moon landings.
Yeah, Ali. What I'm gonna say is, let's suppose what Vikas is saying is right. That this example is
Philosapiens.
maybe false, right?
Mhm.
I'll finish
Philosapiens.
quickly. I'll
Actually,
finish quickly, Vikas. I'll finish
philo.
quickly, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll finish quickly. The point being that whatever those predictions that the Quran has, the point we were trying to make here is that it doesn't matter how many time between the prediction and the actualization of that is,
Hmm.
the mere idea that came through and that it came true, and whatever the time gap between that is what was our point pretty much. And the same could be said about whatever you consider to be scientific miracles in the Quran as well. You think that those verses are talking about expanding universe and all those. It's been discovered 1400 years. So you're saying that somehow that gap of 1400 years makes it more miraculous than probably had the gap been like 2 days or 20 days or 2 years or 20 years, something like that. Is that true?
Philosapiens, you are talking with
Yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I want to clear, if someone want to know that when then that idea comes that people should try to go to the moon, it's not about Apollo 1 or Apollo 2. Again, a lack of knowledge. Obviously, I know why it happens. I already knows, because if you think that and you know philosapians about everything, that how in science and or technology, how the things work. First of all, you create an idea, then you will think about that, and you will discuss with others, and it's go so long, again and again, and then you will create some mission or like that. So it's not the thing that it's not available. Everyone knows this thing. So that argument was so stupid, that Apollo mission was started from that and that, and from behind that Apollo thing, there was nothing. The idea, the feasibility, or whatever, the sequence, that was nothing, and thus start Apollo from that years to that years. So amazingly, I was
Yeah,
I already knows. So philosapiens, now I want to tell you.
I
Uh,
agree. I agree with you that I mean, at least you are thinking that the example Ali gave was of mundane in nature, because people can see moon and think of going over there and consider it to be a separate body. At least they were in the know of things, basically. And your universe is expanding is more miraculous because it's so far fetched, basically, right? And the
yeah, of course,
problem there,
people
Ali,
was not thinking about that, because
let me just finish. Let me just finish my point, right? And the problem
But
there
you can
is
say the same
because
thing. You can say the
the,
same thing about the people of the time as well. You could think that the universe, the sky, the clouds are moving, etc. You can think like that. A very very rough idea of it.
right,
That.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what my point is. You'll have
Yeah.
to tell your people who's listening, or the arguments you are having against, and basically us, Ali and myself and Mahadin,
okay,
is that
Madin, this
those
is your
verses. Hold on.
assumption.
Those hold on.
Wait a minute, the sky is
Those
moving.
verses
This is
really
your
make the
assumption, that people was thinking the universe is expanding. This is your assumption on the basis of
you have to
when sky
provide
is
Ali
moving,
the
people is
No.
thinking.
Philo, I
or
think
To
we
provide unequivocal proof or
yeah.
evidence that
you have some
those words were talking about the
evidences to
universe
prove.
expanding, right?
Wait a
Listen,
minute, wait a minute. Wakas, where is your evidence that historically people didn't think that? Did you
okay,
look
so
through?
Madin,
Did you look?
Madin,
I'm not finished.
Madin.
Did you look through history, human history, ancient Greeks, ancient Hindus, ancient Romans to know this? Are you like a
They are talking about the expanding of universe. Okay, please show me. They are talking about the expanding universe. Please show me.
plenty of ancient people have mentioned words to similar effect, that the vastness of the
No
vastness of
problem.
everything, you know, etc.
Expanding of the universe, or they are giving some type of
They kind of use, yes,
examples. Okay, show
yes.
me. Show me.
No. I'm saying, have you, first of all, have you looked through it yourself? Number one, have you looked through it to say there's nobody there? There's nobody said this.
Actually, Madin, you are talking. I am talking. I am relating. I am
Yeah.
talking about the fact, and you are creating some assumption to fulfill your.
No, I said, how did you know that in human history nobody's mentioned anything like this in the past? Because we can pull out Wikipedia even, right? Philo, are you there? I think, is he gone? Sorry, I mean, Wakas, are you there?
I think Vikas has dropped out
Yeah,
pretty much, right?
yeah. I
I
mean,
think his argument has a serious problem. Basically, he's saying
mm,
one thing is that it says expanding. He's just latched on to that expanding universe. First thing first, I think I remember long time ago I read one of the translations which didn't say expanding universe, but the uh, I think you used the word vastness or something. We are the
exactly. Why
or
don't we just bring it
is
up? Look, Philo, we've got Wikipedia and we've got plenty of other things. We can just find out now. I'm pretty sure very similar wording to convey the same meaning has been used in historical antiquity. I've seen it myself. Right. I'm not a historian of ancient science or ancient ideas, but I do know, roughly speaking, many books that I've seen that they've talked about a moving universe, a vast universe, stretching the universe. All these sort of expressions have been used in the past. So these ideas, roughly rudimentary versions of these ideas, had pre-existed the Islamic times. So the fact that it's repeated in the Quran, it isn't as different to the comparison that Ali was making, and even Wakas was saying that some sort of understanding of would have been known even before those particular dates where Apollo took those missions, etc. You know, like the idea of going to the moon itself, and very similarly, the idea of a large universe, a vast universe, and a moving universe can easily be twisted to mean an expanding universe, and then correlated with modern day science to mean our universe's expansion. So it's not that much different.
right, Madan. See that I brought that verse up pretty much right on the screen and read. I think only Mustafa Khattab's translation is, "We build the universe with great might, and we are certainly expanding it." Right? That's where he uses expanding. Reads what Sahih International translates it to, and the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander. Right? Marked difference, basically. Right? And the sky was built. This is Taqi Usmani. And the sky was built by us with might, and indeed we are the expanders. Again, expanders, right? Abdul Halim's basically says, "We built the heavens with our power and made them vast." See the marked difference between the
Yeah.
translations. There's so many different. Had that been a precise, what do you call a scientific miracle or whatever scientific knowledge, then the writer of this verse would have made his point very, very clear, right? So that everybody could understand it. There's so many different opinions. And if you read the tafasir, same thing you read over there as well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So it could just simply mean that God is saying that we made the universe and made it large, right? And then people came along and started saying it made it expand. But what Kas was saying, he needs to go and show that nobody had known that before. One, And then he challenged me to show that whether it is there. First of all, he needs to show it, that it is his claim, right? His claim is that nobody knew this, and then one person, Muhammad, knew this.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Right?
it's precisely his claim. Yeah.
His claim, right? I don't need to show that nobody knew it or people did know it. He needs to show that nobody, but I can show that people did know it, and that's what I was going to proceed to explain. For example, there are many Japanese myths and many Sumerian myths about cosmological origins, which use the same sort of Democritus type language, where from a small thing, other things came about. Doesn't that sound a bit like expansion, right?
This sound very much. This sound very much like a Big Bang.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And this is what I was trying to make the point. It may not be accurate, it may not be the right way to describe it, but these rudimentary, inaccurate versions of it existed back then, right? Very simple.
And Madan, when you talk about the right way of expressing it, I don't think that Big Bang is even the right word to express the expansion of the universe. It's just a casual word somebody came out with. I can give you the name of the person who came with this word. It's not a scientific name of that theory. It's a very casual term. Big Bang. There's actually no bang, but we still call it Big Bang.
Yeah, I think the Big Bang verse is, I think, Surah Anfal, verse 30, if I remember it correctly, I think, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm forgetting it. But anyways, I mean, I'm attacking his even the more fundamental problem over here. How do you know it says exactly that it's expanding? I mean, how do you know that it really comports to what the reality is? Mahaden, I'm getting feedback from your side. So that's one of the most fundamental. But let's if we are charitable and given them that okay, it's exactly saying what the current state of understanding in the physics is basically, or cosmology is. And then the Big Bang problem is like Egyptians knew that Egyptians had a mythology about the sun god and the earth god. I think what's the sun god's name? Atum or something like that, and Geb, and they separated them and created the sky or something like that. No, the, the sun god separated Geb and Nut to create earth and sky. Greeks had the similar mythology. Norse mythology had something similar. Chinese had something similar. Sumerians had something similar. Babylonians had something similar.
Yeah, just
So
for our
many
viewers
different
and just for
cultures had all
Wakas.
these things.
Yeah,
basically,
Philo,
yeah.
just for our viewers and just for Wakas, just look up on obviously privately. You don't want to, and then see if you can find the page cosmological myths about the origin stories of the universe, and you'll see it's very much similar language of something from a small point being outward pulled apart, a thunder, whatever, not thunder, a sun. What's the word? I don't know. Being clung apart or widened apart or expanded.
Expanded or pulled
So
apart.
these synonyms have been used in the past, and they kind of roughly fit the kind of expansion of the universe now. But it doesn't mean that they knew what Hubble knew, what Einstein knew, etc. No, of course not. But it was just a logical thing that you could think about at the time, and they were mixed in with many of their gods. Like there was in ancient Sumerian times, Egyptian times, it came from water or something like that, but it was clumped together and then it just pulled apart by these gods who were fighting or something like that. And ancient Egypt, ancient Japan also had very similar ones, right? This idea existed before. So so this expansion stuff, this goes back to what I was saying regarding how do you interpret things? Do we interpret things based on what they meant at the time, or do we interpret things based on by forcing the words to mean what we mean today, right? But historically, when people talked about this kind of origin story of the universe or expanding, they refer to that, then it's more likely to be that they were just referring to that. You know, a lot of Muslims would say, then why did they just say this part and they didn't mention all the stuff about the water or the gods, etc.? Because it's not relevant to the Islamic theology, right? It's not. They're not going to be inspired by everything from Egyptian mythology, right? Because then it'll be a replica, complete. They're not going to talk about the gods of the time because they're trying to distinguish themselves with their own god, Allah. So they're not going to mention all those things. They're just going to take what is in common and what people knew. And the other thing is, there's a massive time span between ancient Egypt and the 7th century Arabia. So some of those ideas would have been roughly taken, aspects would have been removed. You'd have a better, somewhat improved understanding, perhaps. And therefore, this is why it just says something like, the universe was expanded. That's it. Yeah, so it could just be that. That's one interpretation, and that's one natural explanation, and is more probable than the supernatural one, because if you can think of a natural explanation, by definition, it's a higher likelihood to explain the phenomena, because you need to exhaust the natural explanations first before you go to the supernatural explanation.
Supernatural explanation. Yeah, true, I think. But anyways, Waqas has dropped out, and we should conclude today's stream, I think. Yeah, it was a good stream, I think. Waqas, unfortunately, you couldn't respond to what we said. So maybe next time when you come into our stream, Hindi, Urdu, or English, then probably you can respond to our objections. And with that, I think it's time to say bye for now, and see you guys in the next stream. All right, Bilal, I think I did put your comments and some of the different verses that you were pointing to. I think we did talk about the Big Bang one, and but we didn't, fully answer it. But maybe we'll tackle it some other time.
Yeah, let me just respond to this one. Because this particular one, I said many miracles because you said someone made. Yeah, it's true that if let's say Democritus made lots of, Democritus may have predicted the atom, right? But Muhammad may have predicted lots of stuff. So the Democritus example that I used wasn't to say that every single thing that Muhammad said in the Quran, or aka Muhammad, we don't know if it was just Muhammad, but going with that now, or authors of the Quran, every single so-called miracle can be explained using the Democritus example. Some of them might be. That's what I'm saying. That's one. That's why I give multiple explanation. I'm saying there are multiple explanations to explain all of those alleged scientific miracles. Some of them are due to chance. Some of them are due to distortions of modern day Muslims make through linguistic trickeries and ambiguous language. Some of them due to plagiarism of the time from Muhammad, or some of them due to just it was knowledge of the time. It wasn't actually astounding. Some of them due to some of them are just yeah, I would go back to chance, just like astrology, just like. And when you have all these explanations, that's more realistic, because that's how things happen in text. There's not just one thing. If you read any text, each sort of thing has a different origin story and a different cause, right? And when you use all those explanations to explain it, then you can explain all of them. But what the other thing I would say, there is indeed, I think it's Epicurus, Darum Nachara, I think it's called. He wrote he has like a manuscript on a poem. He's writing a poem, and in that poem, a lot of ancient historians of science, for example, attribute some of his work in that one poem to predict things like quantum indeterminacy, how molecules form, whether or not how the nose detects smells, right? From just one poem. So this one person, Epicurus, from one poem, writes in such a way that it correlates with modern day scientific knowledge before its time. So you do have an analogous situation where it's just one person making all these sort of things in Epicurus. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, true that. I think, yeah, I agree. Anyway, I think we should close the stream, Madan. Thank you guys for joining. See you guys in the next stream. Thanks to Madan. Thanks to Alicia. See you guys in the next stream. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.